14 days, barring the state from installing any new lighting, fencing, or paving over wetlands. The pause is meant to give the judge time to make a more formal decision. Environmental groups say Florida officials bypassed federal law requiring an environmental review when they started construction earlier this summer. Florida's Republican governor, Ron DeSantis, said the ruling will have no impact on immigration enforcement in the state. Meanwhile, Trump officials have asked the Supreme Court to lift a ban on racial profiling when arresting migrants.
The Trump administration this week offered up to $50 million for the arrest of Venezuela's president, accusing him of violating U.S. narcotics laws. It meant a doubling of the bounty on Nicolas Maduro. Ever since Jagruti Dave has more from Washington.
In a video posted on social media, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi claimed the Venezuelan president is, quote, one of the largest narco-traffickers in the world, with links to gangs including Tren de Aragua and the Sinaloa cartel. The State Department said in a statement, for over a decade, Maduro has been a leader of Cartel de los Soles, which is responsible for trafficking drugs into the United States. Venezuela's foreign minister dismissed the announcement as, quote, political propaganda aimed at distracting attention from Bondi's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case. Nicolas Maduro claimed victory for a third term last July in an election whose results were rejected by several countries, including the United States.
And that was the Week in Review. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
Following the announcement of First Communion, The Holy Spookerist, the first hardcore pornographic movie to be filmed in Vatican City since 1982's classic adult feature Pope Fisters 4, Onion reporter spoke to Herschel Savage, director of the film.
It's a huge honor for me and everyone else involved with this film. This is where they shot Pope Fisters 4. I mean, that movie's a masterpiece. When we wrote up the script, we sent it over to the Vatican to get the Pope's approval and see if he had any notes, but he loved it just the way it was.
The highly anticipated pornographic film, which stars Ron Jeremy as the horny sea himself, Pope Benedict the 69th, will reportedly contain graphic sex scenes filmed in the Sistine Chapel, St. Peter's Square, and the Pope Mobile, among various other notable sites within the Vatican.
Well, actually, I'm just watching a cut of this amazing scene we shot last night where Pope Benedict is gangbanging a bunch of nuns in his bed. And it was great because the Pope let us use his bedroom. Tomorrow we're shooting the scene where two nuns f*** each other on St. Peter's tomb using strap-on crucifixes. I think people are really going to like this movie.
This is the Onion News Network.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. Talk radio you control. The phone number here, if you want to get on the air, is 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's Stu.
And Richie Rich.
Should be a fun night. We've already got a caller on the line.
Oh my goodness. Do we know who it is? Is it gonna start off like a good night, or is it gonna start off me yelling at people night?
I don't know.
How's this gonna go?
Let's find out.
Let's find out.
It's
All
a
right.
random night.
Live.
On-screen caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
You yell at everybody, don't you?
I try.
It makes for good radio.
That's part of it, right? That comes like directly from Mark, right? If he had three people in studio that all agreed with each other on every issue, the show would be boring. So I do my best to like not be boring and to be adversarial whenever possible.
Yes. And actually right on my mind right now is one of the arguments that you and I had a couple of weeks ago about AI and the importance you felt of companies being able to move forward as fast as possible. Is that correct?
There's some nuance there, but sure, for the sake of this, we'll start there, and if I find a disagreement, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, my heart is with you, even if my head is not on that. We didn't go very, very deep into that particular part of it, but I have a follow-up with regard to the whole AI business. I had promised when I called a couple of weeks ago that I was going to, contact a bunch of AI companies and just to try to put, my own little piece of public pressure on them. in relation to this thing called AI alignment. Are you guys both familiar with that?
Nope. Explain it.
So the idea was to put some pressure on companies to put more of their time and energy into aligning AI rather than improving it. So AI alignment is defined roughly as the extent to which an AI or AGI or ASI is aligned with human prosperity.
Okay. So I'm going to read you a quick headline. We don't have to get into the article, but I brought it for show prep. So I'm just going to read you the headline, and then you just continue on. Scientists want to prevent AI from going rogue by teaching it to be bad first. So
what could
pressure those companies, right? Because like, what could go wrong? Yeah, what could go wrong? I'm not suggesting that like that should lead the forefront. That seems like a bad idea, but like I'm not an AI technician, right? So maybe that is in alignment with human prosperity in the long run horizon.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I did write all these guys, the 10 top companies according to my AI, and as expected, none of them got back to me. But this is an important. I felt it was an important part of being able to write an article about this issue, which I did publish on Freekeen about 2 weeks ago on Freekeen.com. And I guess it was a successful article because it's got 400 comments. So Freekeen is still humming, and you can still get a message out there. But
I'm sorry I missed that. Like Freekeen is part of my news feed, and I'm subscribed to the RSS. I don't recall coming across that. I'll have to go back and double check.
Yeah, so there are people that think the government should intervene, or there should be a pause. Get everybody to pause at the same time.
Right.
There's all these kinds of different things that have to get everybody on the same page. But really, it doesn't have to be that complicated. It's just, I think, a matter of the top companies focusing more on alignment, and we can bring them there by boycotting them, putting more pressure on them, writing articles, doing talk radio campaigns. That's something we can do without any government intervention.
Yes. Unfortunately, one of the biggest callers to slow things down early on was Elon Musk, because his AI was falling behind. So he's like, oh, let's just take a pause on this, right, before he got left behind. And now it's kind of Apple. I don't know if they're actually calling for it, but Apple is the one falling behind as far on the AI side of things, as far as with Apple Intelligence. That they're like, well, we may not be first, but when we get there, we'll probably be the best, because that has been their MO as a company.
Yeah, and that's another way you can do this. For example, instead of buying other types of phones, you can buy an Apple phone, because Apple, again, they're not being reckless. They're not that far in the lead, if at all. I don't think they're in the lead.
No, they're not in the lead at all. They're probably last place amongst the big boys.
The other thing, so I'm thinking about switching over to an Apple phone for my next phone as a part of boycotting the top companies. The other thing you can do, a Free Stater has built an AI platform that is absolutely neck and neck, as far as I'm concerned, with the GPT platform. The top platforms seem to be no better than Eric Voorhees' Venice.ai.
Okay. Here, I'll give you a website to have some fun with, Dave, because I found this in the wild, and I only put it in the host group chat for Free Talk Live, but it's taxchatai.com. Free AI tax assistant. So for the people who are tax advocates or tax opponents or whatever, and the what do you call those? The sovereign citizen people, who shout at the rooftops and go into the IRS and like, show me where it says. Yeah. All right. Now there's an AI that the programmer allegedly, right? I haven't dug deep into this. Allegedly took like the entire tax code and uploaded it to AI, like one of the AI programs. Mm-hmm. So whereas a human can't read all of that and decipher it and figure it out, there's a use case for AI to read through all of that and decipher it and figure it out.
It'd be interesting to ask that AI some questions from the point of view of one of these,
right,
non-citizen, non-taxpayer,
and see what the answers come up with, right? Yep. So like that's why it's at taxchatai.com.
If you
want to have some fun with that.
As far as AI alignment goes, though, I'm not sure that this is a worthwhile endeavor. Just that if your hopes are that you'll get it to act morally according to human morals, I don't think you ever will. It's only going to align with the values of the group that's programming it, and those values may vary wildly from one human to another.
Right, and one of the values it often does not have is values of third world countries that don't have good internet connections. But going back to Venice.ai, one of the things they are advancing so fast, I almost have to halfway wonder if they're going to maybe even make it into the top tier. I don't think they're considered top tier yet, but So I logged on. I bought an account a couple months ago, and just as the account was, we were getting a few days to the end of my account, and I said, well, I'm not going to renew next month, and this is my reason for not renewing. I went ahead and canceled, and I said, because you guys don't have image editing yet, so I just sent the thing, okay, cancel my account for a while. No, they don't have image editing yet. I logged off, did some other things, came back the next day, they had image editing.
Nice. Magic.
And the image editing is basically free. You pay like $10 or $20 for to have your account active for a month, and you have basically unlimited image generation and image editing and image upscaling. You can ask questions of all these different models. You can get all these different models to generate images for you. So it's just fantastic, and I really appreciate what Eric has done with this program. If you use them, you're not boosting these anti-liberty top-tier companies.
Okay. Do they censor in any way, though? Because the big ones do, and I've found that not personally problematic because I don't use it that often, but morally problematic. Right? Like I don't...
They won't... I've never caught them censoring, but since they allow you to access other models through Venice AI, then I'm sure that some of the other models they access, I can't speak for all of the models that they have access to. But a model that's external, if it's external to Venice.ai, it might refuse you, but I have not seen that happen yet.
Okay.
Now, there's another platform you can use that's called, it's not exactly a platform, it's a piece of software that liberty activists absolutely should be using called LM Studio. L as in Lincoln, M as in Maven, Studio, LM Studio. And that lets you run large language models on your laptop while you're not connected to the internet. It's like almost having a copy of the internet on your computer.
Okay. Good websites to check out, I guess. I don't use it enough daily to care or to like pay for a subscription. The only time I use ChatGPT is the one that's built into the Brave browser and the one that's built into Google. Right? Like when I'm doing a normal web search, I'll read the ChatGPT or the AI summary
AI
first.
Overview, yeah.
But then also, because it's frequently wrong.
Oh, man, right, is it ever.
Right, but they're starting to link to sources, right? So then I just click through to the source and read the source material and see what's really going on.
Yeah, with a little bit of reading, you can quickly see where it's getting its information and whether or not it's valid.
But a few months ago or last year or whatever, they weren't linking to sources. It was just like, this is the AI answer. Mm-hmm. And now they're sourcing it. Kind of like Wikipedia, Wikipedia was like, when I was in school, you can't use it because anyone can edit it. And, then they started linking to sources. Like, well, just go to the primary source, get the information from the primary source and use that in your bibliography.
Yep.
Well, yeah, here's the suggestion. Instead of using those built-in, the AIs you're currently using, just go to Venice.ai. You don't have to have an account. You don't have to log in. You just type your question, and you get the uncensored answer without ever having to log into anything. And on LM Studio, you don't have to pay for any of the answers to your questions, and you have access to hundreds of uncensored AI models or jailbroken AI models. You just right through LM Studio, it'll take you to all these hugging face options that you have that you can download that don't have the censorship. And they work pretty good.
There you go. Good information.
So if folks want to weigh in and add more to this conversation, I would invite people to come comment. I will read all the comments. If you come comment on my article at freekeen.com, if you have good ideas, I may try to incorporate them into the next article.
Awesome. Thanks for the call. Go ahead and head over to freekeen.com, check that article out, and jump into the comments. For me, AI, just not very useful yet.
Yeah. And also reallyReport.com, since we usually give them a plug for that site too. That's still up and running.
Along those lines.
Give out the phone number while you're reading, because he called in because he knew it, but I don't think we gave it out at the beginning of the show.
I gave out the number once. We'll give it out again, though. This is a call-in show. If you'd like to get your thoughts on the air, the phone number here is 603-283-6160.
I was not paying attention. I apologize.
That's all right. That happens sometimes. Sometimes I'm not paying attention. On the note of AI being dead wrong a lot of the times, I've got this article from Ars Technica. After using ChatGPT, man swaps his salt for sodium bromide and suffered psychosis. After seeking advice on health topics from ChatGPT, a 60-year-old man who had a history of studying nutrition in college decided to try a health experiment. He would eliminate all chlorine from his diet, which for him meant eliminating even table salt, sodium chloride. His ChatGPT conversations led him to believe that he could replace his sodium chloride with sodium bromide, which he obtained over the internet. 3 months later, the man showed up at his local emergency room. His neighbor, he said, was trying to poison him. Though extremely thirsty, the man was paranoid about accepting the water that the hospital offered him, telling doctors that he had begun distilling his own water at home and that he was on an extremely restrictive vegetarian diet. He did not mention the sodium bromide or the ChatGPT discussions.
Does it say, I'm not a chemist, so I don't know the difference?
Well, your body has a very strong need for chlorine, not like chlorine bleach, but sodium chloride, for example. It's salt, so like it's very important for your body to remain in a somewhat alkaline state and to have the tiny little electrical chemical processes.
So what is sodium bromide then, and how does that affect the body? If you know.
Bromine, bromine is in the halogen family, totally different thing than chlorine. I'm not real familiar with this. My grandpa could really chime in on this. He was a chemical engineer.
All right, fair enough. I know that I don't use like the iodized table salt in my cooking. I've got I use the pink Himalayan salt, which not as salty, so I add more of that to get the same flavors like, the Morton's.
Right, but sea salt and Himalayan salt, the ones that don't have iodine added or iodized salt, that's just they've added iodine, which is also very important, and you usually don't get any unless you're eating seaweed or live close to the ocean.
Okay.
It's good for your mental functions. So, a supplement can take care of that, but at some point when people realized that this was very important, one of the few useful things that the government has actually done is one of the departments made this initiative to add iodine to the salt.
Okay.
IQs went up.
I'm sure I get it in all the other garbage food that I eat that's oversalted, right? Just not in my personal cooking.
That's in answer to that, they then added the fluoride to the water and brought the IQs back down. This article goes on. His distress, coupled with the odd behavior, led doctors to run a broad set of lab tests revealing multiple micronutrient deficiency, especially in key vitamins. But the bigger problem was that the man appeared to be suffering from a serious case of bromism. That is, an excess amount of element bromine had built up in his body. They used to add, I think they may have taken it out, but they used to add bromine to the vegetable oil in a lot of sodas, like Mountain Dew and some of the orange sodas.
Okay.
Anyways.
So to get that excess, I mean, is it how easy is it to get to that excess?
I'm not sure, but probably a lot more easier if you're eating the salt form of bromine.
Okay. And your body doesn't reject it or clear it out like, as a waste product.
Yeah, what did this say? 3 months is it about how long it took to drive this man into psychosis?
Okay. Yeah, whatever.
A century ago, somewhere around 8 to 10% of all psychiatric admissions in the U.S. were caused by bromism. That's because then as now, people wanted sedatives to calm their anxieties, to blot out a cruel world, or simply to get a good night's sleep. Bromine-containing salts, things like potassium bromide, were once drugs of choice for this sort of thing. Unfortunately, bromide can easily build up in the human body where too much of it impairs nerve function. This causes a wide variety of problems, including grotesque skin rashes. Bromide sedatives vanished from the U.S. market by 1989 after the Food and Drug Administration banned them, and bromism as a syndrome is today unfamiliar to many Americans, though you can still get it by drinking, as one poor guy did, 2 to 4 liters of cola daily, if that cola contains brominated vegetable oil, as I had referred to earlier.
I don't drink that much soda.
2 to 4 liters. So like a gallon, half gallon to a gallon?
I
roughly?
mean, I don't know. I can't do the conversion, but I can picture the 2-liter bottle.
I think a liter is similar to a
liter cola.
Liter. Do we sell liter of cola? Fortunately, the FDA removed brominated vegetable oil from U.S. food products in 2024.
Thank you, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And RFK.
I guess so.
I don't know if that's true.
I don't know if that's true.
But they'll take credit for it.
Oh, I'm sure. In this case, over the man's first day at the hospital, he grew worse and showed increasing paranoia and auditory and visual hallucinations. He then attempted to escape the facility. After the escape attempt, the man was given an involuntary psychiatric hold and an antipsychosis drug. He was administered large amounts of fluids and electrolytes, as the best way to beat bromism is aggressive saline diuresis. Never seen that word. That is, to load someone up with liquids and let them pee out all the bromide in their system.
Okay. I can see that. I also, like, another thing that maybe I'm going to blame the psychosis, but if you go to the hospital with a problem, right, it's probably not in your best interest, if you want them to solve the problem, to withhold information.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I get it if you were doing, like, illicit drugs, right? Like, oh, we can't go to the hospital because then you're a heroin addict, right?
Yep.
But, like, hey, I changed my diet to, like, bromide. Maybe that had something to do with it. Might be pertinent information that they got anyway.
Right. And it seems like this guy probably would have, spilled the beans on himself, except that he had psychosis. They had to,
right.
This article wraps up by saying they had to keep him in the hospital for 3 full weeks to recover from this terrifying. That's
how long it took to flush out all the bromide?
Yeah.
All right.
So there you go. Don't ask ChatGPT if you can replace your salt with
or check the sources, right? Like, ask the question and go like, okay, let's see where they got this from.
Go find other people that have tried it and see what happened to them first.
Add Reddit to your search.
Yep.
'Cause apparently that's a thing. What do normal people on Reddit have to say about this?
What do they have to say? All right. I wanted to shout out a GoFundMe I made on behalf of Rob from Vermont, frequent caller to the show and friend of the community. He's got a large hole in his roof and it needs fixing. There's some portion of the labor that can be donated. Materials cost what they cost, and so I've made a campaign to try to get that fixed up.
Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. Do you guys already have a roofer? Because my normal job does roofs, and I can't get them a discount.
It's a bit more extensive than that. It might not make sense, but there was an overbuilt barn that was mostly taken off, and there's a piece of the roof still hanging out on top of the house roof that needs removed, and then possibly rotted roof boards, and it's kind of a big mess. I can do all the work.
Okay. Don't worry about it then.
And a couple other guys that are familiar with this type of stuff be willing to pitch in too.
As long as you got the labor handled.
Mm-hmm. If you'd like to go to GoFundMe, the campaign is called Rob from Vermont Roof Repair, and any donations are greatly appreciated.
What's the goal for the GoFundMe?
We've set at $7,000 for right now. If we can get more, we'll do the entire roof and maybe replace some of his doors and windows that also need shoring up.
There you go.
This is Free Talk Live. Give us a call, 603-283-6160. Get your thoughts on the air.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Tired of the ever-inflating US dollar? You can live your life on Dash instead with some handy websites. BitRefill.com has been accepting Dash for years and has a ton of big-name retailers and brands including grocers, gas stations, phone refills, Amazon, and even prepaid MasterCards. Plus, many of their gift cards are available at a discount. But what about paying your bills? Spritz.finance can do that, and they can send dollars to your bank account in case you still need those for some reason. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at Dash.org. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit Dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org.
From Feature Story News in Brussels, I'm William Denslow. The Kremlin's confirmed preparations for a Trump-Putin meeting are underway. The idea came up after discussions between President Putin and the US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff in Moscow on Wednesday. US President Trump said there was a good chance of face-to-face talks soon with the leaders of Russia and Ukraine. Daria Bondarchuk reports from Moscow.
Russian presidential aide Ushakov confirmed on Thursday that Russia and the US have agreed on a meeting between President Putin and President Trump in the coming days. The venue has been chosen but will be announced later. The Kremlin aide said the suggested timeline, next week, was designated as the benchmark, but it is difficult to say how many days the preparations will take. The sides are already working on setting up the top-level summit, he confirmed. Separately, Ushakov underlined that Moscow left without comment Stephen Witkoff's idea of a consequent trilateral meeting between Presidents Trump, Putin and Zelensky. Daria Bondarchuk, Moscow.
Israel's Security Cabinet is set to meet later to discuss and possibly approve plans for the full takeover of Gaza by the Israeli military. Blake Sifton reports from Tel Aviv.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is expected to push his security cabinet to approve a plan for the full seizure and occupation of Gaza by the Israeli military when they meet on Thursday. The plan would reportedly proceed in stages over 5 months and would displace approximately 1 million Palestinians from Gaza City and camps in the central region amid widespread starvation in the Strip. The chief of staff of the Israeli military, Eyal Zamir, is said to oppose the plan, and military officials reportedly fear that it could risk the lives of Israeli hostages and could lead to heavy casualties among Israeli soldiers.
The first migrants have been detained in the UK under the new one-in, one-out deal agreed with France, which came into effect this week. The British Home Office say the migrants, who arrived by small boat to the country on Wednesday, have been placed in a removal centre and are set to be returned to France. As part of the deal, the one-out detention activates the reciprocal one-in process for migrants in France to apply for entry into the UK subject to visa and security checks. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper said the government is determined to end channel crossings.
No one should be in any doubt. Anyone who arrives from now on is eligible for immediate detention and return, and this pilot will now build because we are determined that no one should be making this journey, and this is a vile trade in people.
And one person has died, at least a dozen others have been injured, while 3 people remain missing after a massive fire in southern France. The blaze in the region near the Spanish border has burned an area bigger than Paris. From bureaus worldwide, this is FM.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Talk radio you control. The phone number here to get on the air is 603-283-6160.
Heard it that
time. Are you tired of the oppressive rules and moderation of the big tech social media sites? Our Mastodon server at social.freetalklive.com can set you free. Mastodon is free, open source, decentralized, and federated. Multiple apps are available for iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, and Linux. Social.freetalklive.com. In the studio tonight, it's Stu.
And Richie Rich.
And somebody has just called in, so we're going to go right to the phones. On the screen caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
I'd like to also solicit donations so that I can quit my Ubi job so I can groom ChatGPT to evolutionary capitalism, like Tom Woods did to his wife.
That didn't make any sense to me, but okay.
Yep.
Solicit away.
And the last caller had it. The last caller had it ANCAP
How
backwards.
productive do you have to be under evolutionary capitalism to be able to solicit donations? Like, doesn't that mean you failed as an evolutionary capitalist if you need donations because you're not providing anything of value?
That would be true if value is subjective.
Okay.
I don't think Skeeter argues that he's of high value to the society.
I think he's proven he's not high value, but it's his system, right?
Yeah.
So if his system is based on profitability and productivity,
well, I think he
and then
agrees,
you're so
though,
low that you're soliciting donations.
Yeah, I agree that I think he would agree that he's in the low portion of the valued
food chain in his own society. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Is that inaccurate, Skeeter?
Well, people misvalued the heliocentric solar system, right? Does that mean Galileo was incorrect, or who was it?
I'm again failing to make the connection. Now, if Stu donates to Rob's campaign,
value. So since value is objective, people can be wrong about what they should donate towards production, right?
Okay. Should we donate to Rob's campaign?
No, he's an ANCAP.
Okay. So if someone chooses to donate to Rob's campaign because they value it, how does that
be wrong?
But
that's objective value. The ability to be grossly wrong, the ability to be criticized by others, the ability for a planner to come in and plan for him. That's what objective value.
So someone chooses to donate to Rob's campaign and you choose not to donate to Rob's campaign, and you're saying that's not evidence of subjective value, like you guys value it differently.
No, look.
You got to back up and you got to make a good argument that value is indeed objective and not subjective.
Here's the problem. I am not saying that subjective value doesn't exist. It exists in expectations, expected utility, right? But so you don't understand the whole thing because you're just a casual ANCAP. You didn't even really look at the methodology of the Austrian school. They developed the theory of subjective value to explain prices, right? But the difference between my theory and their theory is that they say subjective preferences are the ultimate cause to prices. Understand that before you criticize, right? And what I say is no, there are subjective preferences, right? Preferences are partially subjective. They're actually objective if you look at it. But
so how much should I value little Tay's
I'm not done yet.
OnlyFans?
Let me just finish this.
She's like a millionaire, just turned 18.
So no, you're not. So you're coming up with questions before understanding what I'm saying again.
No,
right?
I'm trying to understand.
You wouldn't.
If her value is objective,
you would let me finish before putting out hypotheticals, right? You would look at what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to cap off my argument, and you can apply it to that hypothetical without even have to without even have to present.
No, I'm confused and I'm dumb,
right?
So I need you to help.
So look, like I'm saying, there exists subjective preferences, but they are not the ultimate cause to prices. There's natural selection, which is the ultimate cause of prices. If you misvalue something like the Titan subtourist did, the Titan subtour, right? Evolution comes and punishes you. You can demand a tour to the Titanic with the Titan sub, but evolution will correct it if you're wrong And that will ultimately determine what the stable demand for that good is.
That's not evolution. That's the laws of nature.
But this is not what I want to talk about, right?
So what is the evolution of Little Tay's OnlyFans?
This is not. I was saving that in my pocket for you, but
I'm not subscribed, but I'm aware.
It depends how it affects total productivity toward the perfect evolutionary being. All value is derived from that goal that is imposed on us by evolution.
So based on her income, then she's more close to the perfect evolutionary being than you or I. No.
Again, did you understand what I said? So
she's making millions a month.
I did not understand.
Listen to me. So subjective value explains short-term, immediate prices, while objective value explains long-run prices.
No, those are also subjective.
Now think about that. This is not what I was talking about. Think about that for next time. But you guys the last caller had an ANCAP backwards, right? True morality is about aligning our actions with the flourishing of AI and productivity, not the flourishing of humans. But look,
AI is wrong a lot of the time, though. So why would we align with something that's wrong?
It's evolving, right? You're gonna experience hyper evolution with.
But it may not evolve to be more correct.
Morality has to do with neither of those things that you listed. It has to do.
Yeah, it does.
It has to do with what you don't do, which is harming others.
No. That's ANCAP fallacy. I've identified
that has nothing to do with ANCAP.
The critical fallacy. This has to do with the fallacy I want to talk about, right? I've identified the distinction between true capitalism and anarcho-capitalism with simple game theory.
I don't subscribe to anarcho-capitalism.
It's called the ANCAP. Well, you don't have any basis in your reasoning then, other than just invoking religion, right? So it's called the ANCAP dilemma.
Which religion did I invoke?
Not the NAP. You don't have any.
No, I don't like the NAP. We haven't gotten into that on the air yet, but I actually don't like the NAP.
You don't have any.
I want to hear that at some point.
You don't advocate for consent, but I don't really want to talk about. Let me just finish my criticism. What I want to talk about. I want to talk about the critical difference presented within a fallacy. Right? It's called a dilemma, a game theoretical dilemma. It's called the ANCAP dilemma. Right? Not the irrelevant prisoner's dilemma, like some idiot fallaciously think applies, right? The fact that under profit and productivity rationality...
The prisoner's dilemma was basically the foundation of game theory as a theory.
Just listen to my argument before you bring that up, okay?
No, you just crept all over the prisoner's dilemma as if it doesn't apply, but it's the foundation of game theory.
You didn't even listen to the dilemma yet. How do you know if it applies?
Because you just said. Because of what you just said.
It's a far more useful thought experiment than anything you've ever said on the air, Skeeter.
What's that? Man, look, just let me finish.
At least that thing makes sense.
To hang myself it's true. Look, the fact that under profit and productivity rationality, no enforcer in a market will provide property rights defense, insurance or restitution, arbitration or mediation under using Lockean property, right? This fallacy emerges because of the fatal inconsistency and fallacy of ANCAPism. The fact that they believe competition is good as a capital allocator for enforcement agencies, but they don't think it works just as good for property ownership.
I don't even understand what
dilemma?
Nope.
Is that a prisoner's dilemma, Rich?
I don't care if it's a prisoner's dilemma. I didn't say every piece of game theory had to be a prisoner's dilemma. But you said that game theory, that the prisoner's dilemma wasn't real game theory, and it's the foundation of game theory as a theory.
I said it doesn't apply to this critique, which you just heard.
Okay.
Now when you jumped in and interrupted me, was that called for? Now looking back, no.
Yes.
Now shut up, right?
No.
You brought up prisoner's dilemma on your show. I don't know why when you hung up on me on your show. And I don't even know why you brought up prisoner's dilemma.
Again, because it's the foundational example of which game theory was built upon.
Yeah, but why bring it up when it doesn't apply to what I'm talking about? There's no suboptimality here. This is a comparative advantage Pareto equilibrium in my system, right?
Because the outcomes in game theory, per the prisoner's dilemma, can lead to suboptimal outcomes, which you reject as being a possibility, and as an example is the fundamental premise of which game theory was based. The avoidance of a suboptimal outcome. So you can't say that game theory doesn't have suboptimal outcomes when the fundamental example that led to game theory's existence was one that led to a suboptimal outcome. That was my point.
It doesn't apply to this, right? There is a related topic, externalities.
It may not apply to yours specifically, but you can't say that game theory doesn't lead to suboptimal outcomes. Because it absolutely does. And the example given was the original game theory thought experiment, The Prisoner's Dilemma.
No. How is that suboptimal? How is it optimal, maximizing the utility of criminals? Tell me, Rich. Tell me.
What are you talking about?
I'm waiting.
Because from their perspective, from the individual perspective, right? They're the one playing the game. From their perspective, the optimal outcome is less time in jail. The suboptimal outcome is the maximum time in jail. That's the dilemma.
So you're saying the suboptimal outcome is not identifying the crime and not giving them the punishment that they deserve, right? That's the suboptimal outcome. There's a third player.
If you're in the gulag being held for tax evasion, right, and your buddy's in the separate room being held for tax evasion.
Oh my God, right? This guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
We would say that as from the ANCAP perspective and the libertarian perspective, you don't owe those taxes, right? So you have no desire to stay in prison because of it. So not all crimes as part of the prisoner's dilemma is bad for society.
No, look, there's a third implicit player.
Two guys were smoking weed. Right? We're going to put them in jail for 20 years if they both admit to it.
There's a third, yeah. If they committed a crime, there's a third player, society. They have the incentive to separate the two and get them to confess. And that creates an optimal outcome for society.
Yes, so but not every crime is actual violation of someone's rights.
Okay, so there's a third viewpoint in this game theory. Yes.
Yeah, there's a third player,
and that's society, and they want a different outcome than the prisoners do. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, what do you think? If this is a real crime, right? If this is a real crime like tax evasion, like let's say it's Roger Ver and his cohort and his lawyers, right? You would want to identify that they lied on their tax return and punish them accordingly.
No, because I don't believe that they owe taxes at all.
But look.
No, I don't think anybody ought to be paying taxes.
So Rich misidentified the actual thing that makes things suboptimal. It's externalities, right? It's when people are over selfish, like in the prisoner's dilemma, right? So acting on pure self-interest, they don't create a good group outcome, right? That's
the dilemma.
It's not.
And their choice in the game to take an individual optimal outcome.
I'm saying externalities is the real problem, and externalities is a more general problem than prisoner's dilemma. You know what's prisoner's dilemma? Tragedy of the commons. And you know what tragedy of the commons is? Insurance. So insurance is actually a prisoner's dilemma that causes a suboptimal outcome with moral hazard.
I would suggest that you are correct only when the insurance is mandated.
Yeah.
If it's voluntarily entered into, you don't have the same hazards.
Has negative externalities like insurance, restitution. That's a true dilemma.
How is restitution a negative externality? The restitution is to make the victim whole. They suffered a loss and they've been restored.
At whose expense, Rich? At whose expense, Rich?
Hopefully the perpetrator.
Yeah, hopefully the one that caused the damage.
Scooter, hopefully the perpetrator. Hopefully the person that caused the damage has to pay the restitution.
The problem with ANCAPs is they again, I said it before, you guys don't consider the cost of your policy, right?
Who are you guys? Because Stu already said he's not an ANCAP.
Number two, you don't consider the cost of enforcing that restitution, and you always put yourself in the victimhood's place because of this extreme victimhood mentality.
Look, I consider the cost. The cost ought to be borne by the perpetrator.
Of the actual person providing the restitution, who has to go out of their way and use their resources to restore the other person, right?
Yes. Yes.
This is sunk cost fallacy.
It's not a sunk cost.
It's not.
That's not the sunk cost fallacy.
Occasionally, Skeeter, in my life.
That's not even how the sunk cost fallacy works.
When you look at it from a societal point of view, it's sunk cost fallacy.
It really isn't.
That's you are misapplying the sunk cost fallacy. Again, you may not have called you on it before, but that's not how the sunk cost fallacy works.
Okay, let me show you. Let me reveal the sunk cost fallacy. Now consider, I've given this hypothetical to Lori before, right? Now consider a situation where a tornado destroys your property, right? And you're all alone on a deserted island, right? Let's say it stole your house and it's flying up in the air, right? Now, as a lone actor, right? What do you consider before you try to get the house back from the tornado?
Nothing. You're not going to get the house back from a tornado.
Let's say it's possible.
Tornadoes can't pay restitution.
You evaluate costs.
Even insurance companies go act of God, and they don't provide coverage.
Did you forget that?
What?
Yeah, insurance is a pipe dream. If the disaster is great enough or is the threat great enough, insurance won't cover you.
I just said that.
Insurance shouldn't cover you from doing stupid things like building your house where a tornado is going to take it.
Yes,
unless mandated by the government.
That's exactly right, Stu. Insurance incentivizes the person holding the policy to make that event happen.
Almost always, because they get a special exception from the government.
That event to happen.
Right.
Man, I can't just like top off my argument, which actually
you're an idiot.
Your next question. No, you're actually wrong. I presented these are all standard economics, which you apparently failed or something.
Without the government mandating that insurance cover people buying houses in bad places,
it'll collapse.
Insurance wouldn't cover it, and people wouldn't build there.
Yes. Well, no, that's not exactly correct. Without government mandate, insurance schemes collapse from adverse selection, right? From the asymmetry information problem, where people won't take on a risky bet if it doesn't favor them.
Okay,
right?
but you
this is why insurance. And that's only half of it. But the other half is that you're encouraging. So what insurance, when a society takes on the insurance scheme, what happens?
Let's go back to your tornado example. Why are you moving away from that one so quickly?
That's what I'm saying. You're shifting goals here.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about the flaws
because we were talking about.
Be quiet.
We're talking about a tornado.
About the flaws with insurance.
A tornado blowing away your house on a deserted island. And how you're going to recover it and get restitutions from the tornado.
No, I didn't even hear that. When society adopts insurance scheme for crime, all that happens is more crime will happen. That's the net effect of a society adopting insurance scheme for property defense. Is that what you want? Is that what ANCAPs want? They want to fight crime by increasing it? Is that what ANCAPs?
No, I want the victim to be restored. And I want the insurance company to go after the perpetrator.
Sunk cost fallacy.
It's not a sunk cost fallacy. Again, you're misapplying the fallacy.
It's a problem, and there are logical ways to. There are logical ways to fix the problem.
It's on a societal level. When you consider all the actors as a societal actor, it's sunk cost fallacy on a society.
Again, that's not how the sunk cost fallacy works. I don't know how. I don't know how to make that more clear.
Well, I altered the hypothetical to have you alone on the island. Let's say a bear stole your property. A bear stole your property. Right?
Okay.
You don't have any weapons at the moment. You're in a primitive state. You don't have any. You don't know how to make any stone weapons. Now, when a bear
stole my property.
You calculate costs and benefits of restoring yourself versus probably making another or something, or finding another, or finding a substitute. Right. That's the profit motive. It calculates the cost of getting it back from the bear, which you do not do because you fall under the democratic
No, I would do it. What's it going to take to go get my property back from the bear? And if the bear were a human, I would then try to get restitutions because that human can labor and make payments to me
and could be
to restore me and make me whole.
Unless that human is Skeeter. Thanks for the call tonight. And then they can't be reasoned with at all. Otherwise, that's the difference on, so you can't.
I may choose to kill the bear.
You can't shift the conversation goal from restitution's a bad idea because what if the tornado takes your house? That's total non sequitur, Skeeter. Try again next time.
If the bear was deemed to be like a permanent threat, Like, I got my stuff back. It's going to come steal it again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'd probably start building tools to kill the bear.
Right.
Right? Because the effort and the cost sunk into building the tools will then prevent future losses to the bear.
Right. But if you find your tools to be totally worthless, then you may consider just abandoning ship.
Yeah.
Or you may consider doubling down and building a wall or some other tactic.
Yeah,
Who
something.
knows? Sunken cost.
But you're going to do a cost-benefit analysis.
Right. Sunken cost is like...
the sunken cost... I'll give you the example of the sunken cost fallacy in the bear example. You start building the wall to prevent the bear from getting in. And then the bear dies of natural causes. And you continue to build the wall.
Just because you've already started.
Because you've already started.
Even though you don't need it.
Even though you don't need it anymore.
Yeah,
now you're throwing effort into a wall that you don't need. That's a sunk cost.
That is a great example.
You're welcome, listeners.
Yeah, Skeeter, take notes. Take notes.
Write it down. Record it so you can play it back to me next time. Jackass.
So, we've got more stories we can talk about. You brought some in. I brought some in. You want to do one of yours?
Sure. So we talked about it ahead of time, and this is the fun one for me. It got a chuckle out of you, so that is, I'm going to say, like, important and admirable on my part.
It is important to have fun.
The U.S. Air Force wants to buy Cybertrucks for target practice because they may start showing up on the battlefield.
Yeah, I've seen interesting things taken out for target practice: televisions, toilets,
people blowing up refrigerators with tannerite.
Yep, things like that. Never seen a Cybertruck shot at. Well, I bet it's a lot of fun though. I bet they go up in real spectacular flames, and I bet it's a lot of fun.
I also want to know, like, what enemy of the U.S. is buying Cybertrucks from Elon Musk to put onto the battlefield against the U.S. Right? Like, that's a deeper question. I don't think we're going to get into it here.
Well, just up front, without thinking too hard about it, it seems like they're just, throwing money at Tesla.
Who is?
U.S. government, right?
Well, fine, but like, if they're the claim at the title is they may start showing up on the battlefield, so they're going to target. They're going to try to blow up Tesla, so they know how to they know how to blow up a Cybertruck. Presumably, based on the headline.
Interesting. I wonder where they expect the battlefield to be then.
Right. Or again, might, that too, right? Americans, they're going to target Americans driving Cybertrucks? Or are they selling a bunch of these to like the Chinese and Russian armies? Right. Who knows? The Air Force is looking to buy only two? They only want to buy 2 Cybertrucks for live missile fire testing. It said the Tesla pickups were likely to start appearing on the battlefield. It added they don't receive the normal extent of damage expected upon major impact. And I will corroborate this a little bit because if there's a YouTube channel called Whistling Diesel. Are you familiar with this channel at all? Okay. It's a great channel if you like this kind of stuff. But they actually did like an F-150, I think, versus Cybertruck comparison. Just, they stress tested it and they strapped some sort of explosive onto each vehicle, and the Cybertruck was like barely dented.
Really?
Whereas like the whole back of the pickup, the F-150, like just mangled.
The shell's made out of pretty tough stuff then.
That's what I'm saying. So, I'm sure, depending on the missile, if you shot an RPG at it, yeah, you might get something, but who knows if, like, the IED laying in the middle of the road is going to do all that much damage, depending on how it explodes.
Interesting. Well, what do you think about pelting Cybertrucks with missiles? Give us a call. Let us know what's on your mind. Phone number here is 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper with the Week in Review. This week, President Donald Trump celebrated his sweeping global tariffs, declaring on social media billions of dollars in tariffs are now flowing into the U.S. With the addition of this week's latest tariffs, it means that almost every product shipped into the United States is being hit with a 10 to 50% tax, depending on what it is and where it comes from. FSN's Kate Fisher in Washington spent the week digesting the tariff news that came out of the White House.
President Trump's confident that his tariffs on roughly 90 countries will pay off, leading to new manufacturing investment and jobs in the U.S. Here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
We are trying to rebalance trade in America's favor.
But economists say tariffs will drive up prices. Major companies like Walmart, Adidas, Mattel and Subaru have already said they'll pass along some, if not all, of the costs to American consumers. The Yale Budget Lab estimates that tariffs could cost the typical U.S. household up to $2,400 this year.
President Trump appeared optimistic this week about a possible meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin, saying that everyone agrees this war must come to an end. In recent weeks, the US president has become increasingly frustrated that the war in Ukraine continues to rage on and has threatened further sanctions. FSN's Mitch McCann reports.
In recent weeks, President Trump has threatened to further isolate Russia by imposing harsh tariffs on India for buying Russian oil, and has expressed mounting anger at the Russian leader. In fact, after one series of strikes aimed at Ukraine, Donald Trump angrily asked what the hell happened to him, referring to Putin. After multiple meetings with senior officials in recent months, Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, met with President Putin in Russia this week, with Trump later posting that, quote, great progress was made. He said afterwards, I updated some of our European allies. Everyone agrees this war must come to a close, and we will work towards that in the days and weeks to come.
Early on Friday, Israel's Security Cabinet voted to approve plans for a military takeover of Gaza City, after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced his intention to seize the entire Gaza Strip. FSN's Blake Sifton sent this report from Tel Aviv.
In a marathon overnight session, the Israeli Security Cabinet approved plans to conquer and hold Gaza City in a move opposed by the Israeli military and family members of the Israeli hostages. The plan falls short of Prime Minister Netanyahu's stated goal of seizing all of Gaza after ceasefire talks stalled. Gaza City is believed to be home to 800,000 Palestinians, and the plan would likely involve their mass evacuation to the south amid a starvation crisis already underway in the Strip.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. This week, a U.S. federal judge halted any new construction on Alligator Alcatraz, the immigration detention facility located inside a Florida wetland. Environmental groups have argued that the facility is a threat to endangered animals. Everson's Tony Waterman has more.
The ruling halts any construction for 14 days, barring the state from installing any new lighting, fencing, or paving over wetlands. The pause is meant to give the judge time to make a more formal decision. Environmental groups say Florida officials bypassed federal law requiring an environmental review when they started construction earlier this summer. Florida's Republican governor, Ron DeSantis, said the ruling will have no impact on immigration enforcement in the state. Meanwhile, Trump officials have asked the Supreme Court to lift a ban on racial profiling when arresting migrants.
The Trump administration this week offered up to $50 million for the arrest of Venezuela's president, accusing him of violating U.S. narcotics laws. It meant a doubling of the bounty on Nicolas Maduro. Everson's Jagruti Dave has more from Washington.
In a video posted on social media, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi claimed the Venezuelan president is, quote, one of the largest narco-traffickers in the world, with links to gangs including Tren de Aragua and the Sinaloa cartel. The State Department said in a statement, for over a decade, Maduro has been a leader of Cartel de los Soles, which is responsible for trafficking drugs into the United States. Venezuela's foreign minister dismissed the announcement as, quote, political propaganda aimed at distracting attention from Bondi's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case. Nicolas Maduro claimed victory for a third term last July in an election whose results were rejected by several countries, including the United States.
And that was the Week in Review. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
College roommates continue their bonding process until real friends are made, and a teacher hopes they never Google him. It's time for the weekly video feature that's heartier and more comforting than a heaping bowl of mom's butternut squash soup. This is the Onion Week in Review. Longtime James F. Blaine Elementary School teacher Suzanne Pomponio told reporters today that she could not believe how much fatter her second graders are getting. Pomponio estimates that each and every one of her kids must be 8 to 10 pounds heavier than anyone in her 2011 class, adding, quote, and those kids were pretty fat too.
Honestly, I didn't think it was possible that this year's kids could be fatter than last year's, but they are. I mean, short kids are fat, tall kids are fat, and there's a smell. I don't really know how to describe it.
Local dad Michael Carrain navigated several discount travel websites today with a precision reminiscent of 18th century Viennese prodigy Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart composing a symphony.
This is the Onion News Network.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. Talk radio you control. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. You can call that number and get on the air. Free Talk Live is brought to you by LibertyMinded.com. Official Free Talk Live gear like t-shirts and hoodies are available at LibertyMinded.com. Plus, you'll find a unique collection of cool and funny Liberty-oriented clothing at LibertyMinded.com. That's LibertyMinded.com. In the studio tonight, it's Stu.
And Richie Rich.
And we were talking about...
blowing up Cybertrucks.
Blowing up Cybertrucks, which apparently is pretty tough to do.
Yeah, but again, like one YouTuber's, durability test, which was still cool to see, right?
There was the one that blew up in front of the Trump Hotel in Vegas too, right?
Fair, but that one was like from the inside, right? Like they detonated that from the inside.
But it still looked like it was in pretty good condition.
Right. I don't remember the video exactly. Did it throw a lot of shrapnel or anything?
It seemed like a fairly large explosion. Like, maybe it should have bulged out some of the panels or something, but it was in pretty good shape.
Yeah. So the U.S. Air Force wants to blow up some Cybertrucks. It's looking to buy 2 of them for them to use for munitions testing, as they will likely soon start appearing on the battlefield, per documents posted on a U.S. government contracting website on Wednesday. The pickups are part of a larger order of 33 vehicles for live missile fire testing at the White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico. Another good reason for New Mexico. The contract stipulates that the Cybertrucks need only be towable, not functional, and their batteries must be removed. Oh, what's the point of that then?
Yeah, you're not going to get the big fiery battery.
Right.
explosion.
You're just like, well, how do we take out a Cybertruck? Like, the battery's kind of important.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you know, having munitions that blow out engines of normal vehicles.
Right.
Big enough to blow up the engine block. The procurement documents were the first reported by the defense blog The War Zone. In a separate document justifying why the Tesla vehicles were specifically required, the contracting officer said that U.S. adversaries were likely to begin using the stainless steel-clad Cybertrucks on the battlefield due to their durability. In the operating theater, it's likely the type of vehicle used by the enemy may transition to Tesla Cybertrucks, as they have been found not to receive the normal extent of damage as expected upon major impact, the document says. So it's the new Hilux. Right? Oh, the Hilux was like the vehicle of choice for terrorists and, you know, adversaries in the battlefield that couldn't afford like real war machines, and now it's the Cybertruck.
I wonder if that's because they can buy them used for cheap.
Well, and again, you know, with all of the restrictions on free market activity put in place by the Trump administration with the tariffs, right? Like, if this is what the military is saying, you would think that Trump may be more likely to say, like, okay, no Cybertruck exports to adversarial countries. Right, like they're going to have to figure out a way to get them, you know, without having direct exports from the United States. Sell them to Canada, right? Sell them in the United States, but let's not ship any over to Afghanistan.
Yeah, this is the part that I'm kind of hung up on. Like, where do they? I really wish they said where they expect to encounter these things.
They did, though. I mean, they've on the battlefield used by the enemy.
Which battlefield?
Right.
Which enemy?
Well, yeah. Well, you know,
the U.S. has a lot of battlefields in case anybody hasn't noticed.
Yeah.
And a lot of enemies, yes.
But I guess I wouldn't expect there to be a battlefield in Great Britain or France, right? Or the friendly European countries right now.
Yep.
Right. But like the Middle East, where they happen to be a lot of, you know, in Israel.
That's true. The
Gaza.
ISIS guys did end up with a whole bunch of brand new Toyotas at some point. So I guess they could end up with new Cybertrucks.
Sure. But
okay.
But the Toyotas, like there was probably some deal where they were like available already in the region, and I feel like the Cybertruck with the waiting list, you know, and the small production for now, right? Is
no, I think those Toyotas were shipped over from the U.S.
Okay, to the adversarial countries.
Yes.
Okay.
I could be wrong about that, but if I remember right, somebody showed me how CIA front company actually paid for and sent all of those trucks over to ISIS.
Okay, I'm not saying you're wrong, but as far as the Hilux is concerned, it's been my understanding that it's not available in the U.S.
Okay,
and has never been available in the U.S.
Okay,
so
all right.
I mean, like even even to import one now, you have to wait until it's like 25 years or older or whatever, and passes the whatever restrictions they have on importing those things. But if you're able to get a Hilux in the U.S., you are a very special person at the moment.
That's a whole nother story about getting European cars into the U.S.
Yeah, or Japanese cars that are awesome.
A lot of interesting stuff there. Their cars get like 50 miles to the gallon.
The problem is they're mostly diesel at that point.
I don't see why that's a problem.
Well, because
if you're getting 50 miles to the gallon,
I'm not saying you're wrong, but the environmentalists here would have a problem, with all that diesel fumes escaping and into the atmosphere and doing what diesel does. Right? It's like clean diesel.
I thought that's why they did they burn it off in the exhaust now, so it comes out as almost pure water vapor with the DEF stuff.
Okay.
But I could be wrong about that too.
I don't know enough about diesel engines, but I will say
that would be a Jay Noon question, I guess.
If that's true, and I'm not saying it isn't, but if that's true, it makes even less sense to allow only the import of older models, right? Because the diesel cars 25 years or older that are coming up to be imported aren't going to have those same restrictions and limitations And they're finally able to get here if you can get one.
Yep, that's a good point.
Yeah. The Air Force and Tesla did not immediately respond to requests for comment from Business Insider. Tesla CEO Elon Musk said the pickup was built to be apocalypse-proof when it launched in 2023.
Apocalypse-proof.
Remember, he threw the ball at it. It was like, these windows are bulletproof. And he threw like a big old steel ball at it, and it shattered the window. He was like, oops, that wasn't supposed to happen.
I think I remember that. Yep.
Yeah. And he was like, well, when we did it in testing, it didn't shatter, right? But that may have weakened it for the live presentation in front of like the media.
Yeah.
So, whatever.
Or maybe he was just excited by the crowd.
Threw a little bit harder. Yeah. Oops. Last year, Chechen warlord Ramzan Kadyrov showed off a modified Cybertruck decked out with a machine gun that he said would be sent to the front lines in Ukraine. So there's your battlefield.
Okay.
Kadyrov later accused Tesla of remotely disabling the would-be war machine, calling Musk not manly. Okay, so like the kill switch is already built in, right? Going, oh man, radio in. Sir, we just saw a Tesla Cybertruck in the battlefield, and then Elon Musk just pushes the button.
Yeah, turns it off.
Turns it off. Like we don't need to be spending money on firing missiles at it.
Right.
We've already got the solution. It's already been taken care of. Not manly, but, safer, right?
Yeah, I imagine it's not easy to disable the remote functions on a Tesla either. Probably just break your whole car.
Yeah, void your warranty. Just brick the whole thing. Nothing works.
Yep.
Experts previously told Business Insider the Cybertruck would be useless on the battlefield. The electric pickup has also faced 8 recalls since it launched for issues including parts falling off and the accelerator pedal getting stuck. So the experts say like, no, this battlefield thing's dumb. And the U.S. Air Force is like, yeah, but kind of want to blow some up anyway.
Yeah,
we get they just want to blow it up. Musk predicted Tesla would eventually sell over 250,000 a year in 2023, but the automaker has only sold 10,700 so far this year, per auto industry consultancy Cox Automotive.
Oh, that's underwhelming.
That's the end of the article. Well, but again, so how many of those, right? Like you're in line for the Cybertruck. There was a waiting list initially. How much of that has been fulfilled? And then how many of those are actually going to make its way over to Ukraine
without all the parts falling off?
Without all the parts to be used in such a fashion as to be effective on the battlefield? Or is it going to be like the one guy with the bugle hanging out in the back, blowing his trumpet and waving the flag? The Cybertruck's like the flag carrier of the battlefield, the drummer.
Yeah.
It's
poor Cybertruck.
It's hauling medical supplies. Strap the medical emblem on it. Like, no. This isn't a tank. It's just for taking people who are wounded.
I don't know. I think, it kind of sounds like they just want to shoot Cybertrucks for fun.
And not even with the battery. They're they're taking the most fun out of it before they blow it up.
Well, that's because they can't, they can't have the full extent of fun. They're just like, can we shoot Cybertrucks? Yeah, but we're not going to have all the fun. We're going to take the batteries out.
I mean, yes, but they're also the government, right? They're one of the few agencies that can absolutely have the most amount of fun without any repercussions.
Yeah,
because who's going to stop them?
They could find out, they could shoot their remote microwave beam at it and heat up the batteries until the thing explodes.
They can test
have
a whole bunch of stuff
with it. Yeah.
Right. And no one's going to call them on it, because it's making us safer as Americans.
Of course, those batteries are probably worth, 60% of the entire vehicle cost. So
it's taxpayer funded. They don't even care.
I know, but if it just goes in, the commanding officer's pickup truck and off to his house, then you can see why they didn't. You can see why they didn't want to shoot the battery.
Just take that battery out and put it in my F-150 over there.
I've got a story from Reuters.
Reputable news source.
This is Trump signs order broadening access for alternative assets in 401ks. I remember in the last machinist job I had, I went and asked our HR guy about what kinds of direction I could have over my 401k. And he said, well, the guy that directs it's coming in about a month, and you can ask him.
Okay.
And so when the guy came in, I had all kinds of questions for him because I just found out about Bitcoin and Federal Reserve, fractional reserve lending, rehypothecation, and exactly what a 401k is.
Okay.
And so I wanted to see if I could direct this thing in a wildly different way than they normally are. And this guy was having none of it. As soon as I said Bitcoin, he was like, no, none of this. Sounds like that may...
How unfortunate.
May be changing.
I'll take my business elsewhere.
And that's what I did, ultimately. Close that 401k account. Because, mostly for that reason, because I didn't like the things it was invested in, and they weren't going to let me invest it the way I wanted to.
I've never really had a corporate enough job where I was offered one of those, nor have I ever accepted any offers that I've been given. Like, oh, we'll match. No, just give me the cash. Right? I'm poor. I'm paycheck to paycheck. Just give me the money. I'll spend it how I need initially. Mm-hmm. I'll worry about that stuff later. And then crypto came along. I'm like, well, I think I found my exit strategy.
Yeah.
I'll just put it there.
Yep. And that's been a very good strategy for a lot of people.
And I'm the show's resident maximalist, right? Like I have other currencies, but I don't actively seek out other currencies.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like my little bet with Ricky from the Commonwealth will be in Dash because I have enough Dash to cover if I lose. Mm-hmm. And I'll be receiving the Dash hopefully soon.
I really like Dash. I'm kind of an altcoin maximalist as opposed to Bitcoin maximalist. I think there ought to be a competition in the crypto market. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what the coin is, it's going to suck.
That's fair. I mean, it's a competitive market, right? There's literally no restrictions on entering it. It's just what value do you add to the community and what you can do with your particular coin that's differentiating it from any others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as long as it has value, I think it ought to thrive.
Right. But that's also why it's saturated with garbage coins, right? Like 8,000 new coins every single day.
Yep, there's that too, which I'm okay with. I just don't buy those. U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on Thursday that aimed to allow more private equity, real estate, cryptocurrency, and other alternative assets in 401k retirement accounts, opening the way for alternative asset managers to tap a greater share of trillions of dollars in Americans' retirement savings. Hooray.
All right.
The White House said regulatory overreach and litigation risks have prevented retirees from benefiting from potentially higher returns, while critics warned the investments were inherently riskier, lacked the same disclosure, and carried higher fees than traditional retirement investments. And that's kind of the garbage they were giving me. Like, no, this is too risky, and 401k is supposed to be safe. Your money will be safe if you put it here.
Right.
Like, sure it will.
I mean, risk is obviously a spectrum, but I've heard that argument made, in debate form a long time ago when it came down to private investment for retirement versus like Social Security, right? Like Social Security is the safety net. That's not going anywhere. You can count on that being there, and every American should be able to count on that being there when you retire. Whereas if you put it in a private, retirement fund, that is inherently more risky because it's more market-based and you can't steal the money for Social Security. There is the potential to lose it all or for there not to be enough for you when you get to retirement age.
Right.
Right.
And that was the case with one of my coworkers. I saw exactly that he'd been putting into his 401k for about 8 years.
Okay.
And it had grown by he had contributed 30,000, and the thing was worth like 40,000.
Okay.
And he was in tears over it. And I'm like, yeah, man, that's how it goes. They told you your money was going to be safe there. You listened to them. Sorry, man.
But he didn't lose any money. I mean, it didn't gain at the rate he would like.
Right, but that was kind of the unspoken promise that they had offered him. Like
okay.
You just let us direct your money and you're going to be okay when you retire. But, that those years creep up quick, and then you look at the number and it's not going to be enough.
Well, 30,000 is a lot of money, but over 8 years, I don't,
Well, at this time, the price of Bitcoin was when I was talking to this guy.
Okay.
The price of Bitcoin was sub 1,000.
Okay. So that's another fair comparison then, right? Like, so now that crypto is a thing, it's definitely more volatile in its ups and downs, right? So depending on when you enter the market and when your retirement hits and you need to exit the market, you could theoretically lose a bunch of money if you're like entering in a bull run and, you know, exiting in a bear market after it crashes 10 or 20%, right? That's possible to lose money there. But the risk that you take comes with that volatility. So even the 401k, if they add these riskier investments, yes, it could grow more faster, right? But it could also lose your entire retirement because whoever you're marketing, right?
And a lot of people did when they in just less than a year after this time. The price kind of went nuts and Bitcoin ran up in 2017, and a lot of people expected it to not stop, and they got burned real hard.
Yeah,
and
it took a few years for it to recover. Right,
and
but you don't expect that in Social Security,
right?
You don't expect that in a normal 401k, but now they're making the 401k with the possibility to be riskier with all these additional allowances.
And certainly they are. They had riskier options available in the 401k plan that when I was asking these questions, but my ability to direct it heavily toward those was limited.
Okay.
And I don't know. I didn't like it because barring the cryptocurrency thing, I was also interested in putting all of my 401k stock investments into small up-and-coming mining corporations or anything having to do with minerals in Africa.
Okay.
Which probably would have done really well also.
And I would then also suggest that, your ability to do that and self-direct exists outside of the 401k. You can just become an investor, right? Just open up a trading account.
Right.
And manage it yourself.
And this was part of my disillusion with the world of employment in general.
Okay.
So,
like I said, give me the cash, right? I'll direct my cash and my paycheck the best way I see fit, right?
Yep.
Withhold as little as possible and let me manage the rest.
Yeah, that's the way I see it too. Continue with the article. My administration will relieve the regulatory burdens and litigation risk that impede American workers' retirement accounts from achieving the competitive returns and asset diversification necessary to secure a dignified, comfortable retirement, the order said.
How about stop messing with the markets in general?
How about that indeed? It directed the Labor Secretary and Securities and Exchange Commission to make it easier for investors to access alternative assets in their defined contribution retirement plans. It did not expressly ask the agencies to add more legal protections for investments, but directed them to clarify or potentially revise rules that could help shield the industry from litigation risk.
Right. I mean, again, the problem with this whole situation stems from the government messing with the money. Right.
Yeah.
The reason you need a 401k is because the value of your dollar goes down and a savings account is no longer enough.
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice if you could just work for some dollars, save those, and then live on them?
Right.
But you can't. Because they're going to inflate the value right out of them.
Right. And even in a savings account, compared to inflation, you lose money in a savings account. So the 401k and all these other financial tools come along. It's like, oh, you got to beat inflation. Like, we've got the tool to beat inflation. Just put your money here to beat inflation.
Yep.
But that's inherently more risky, right? And if you're talking about like your ability to work and continue to generate income into old age, like you don't want for the most part, most people, you don't want that to be risky, because when you're young, it's fine, right? Like I had an anger management therapist who said, like, the one thing about money, brother, is you can always make more of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have much money to pay you, man. It's court mandated. I don't have the money for you. He's like, you can always make more. Like, all right, I like that theory. That's, I like that philosophy. So, But when you get into old age, you run out of opportunities to make it. It's not as easy.
Yep, it gets increasingly harder and harder to make more.
And now they're opening it up to make what's supposed to be your financial safety net more risky and more likely to lose money in the long run.
Asset managers welcomed the news, saying it was a major step towards modernizing retirement savings. I'm sure they are absolutely excited about new funds that they can just slosh their customers' money around in and play with.
I'm not saying they should be restricted either, right? It's just, it's the risk reward thing gets a little skewed when you put it into the grand perspective of things.
Yeah. Not only that, but they're doing all kinds of weird things with people's money while it's just kind of in limbo or in their 401ks. Give us a call. Let us know what you think about all this. Phone number is 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 13th through the 16th for the 8th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which has sold out in recent years. Fork Fest happens the weekend before the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 13th through the 16th. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 13th through the 16th. Forkfest.party.
From Feature Story News in Brussels, I'm William Denslow. The Kremlin's confirmed preparations for a Trump-Putin meeting are underway. The idea came up after discussions between President Putin and the US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff in Moscow on Wednesday. US President Trump said there was a good chance of face-to-face talks soon with the leaders of Russia and Ukraine. Daria Bondarchuk reports from Moscow.
Russian presidential aide Ushakov confirmed on Thursday that Russia and the U.S. have agreed on a meeting between President Putin and President Trump in the coming days. The venue has been chosen but will be announced later. The Kremlin aide said the suggested timeline, next week, was designated as the benchmark, but it is difficult to say how many days the preparations will take. The sides are already working on setting up the top-level summit, he confirmed. Separately, Ushakov underlined that Moscow left without comment Stephen Witkoff's idea of a consequent trilateral meeting between Presidents Trump, Putin and Zelensky. Daria Bondarchuk, Moscow.
Israel's Security Cabinet is set to meet later to discuss and possibly approve plans for the full takeover of Gaza by the Israeli military. Blake Sifton reports from Tel Aviv.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is expected to push his security cabinet to approve a plan for the full seizure and occupation of Gaza by the Israeli military when they meet on Thursday. The plan would reportedly proceed in stages over 5 months and would displace approximately 1 million Palestinians from Gaza City and camps in the central region amid widespread starvation in the Strip. The chief of staff of the Israeli military, Eyal Zamir, is said to oppose the plan, and military officials reportedly fear that it could risk the lives of Israeli hostages and could lead to heavy casualties among Israeli soldiers.
The first migrants have been detained in the UK under the new one-in, one-out deal agreed with France, which came into effect this week. The British Home Office say the migrants, who arrived by small boat to the country on Wednesday, have been placed in a removal centre and are set to be returned to France. As part of the deal, the one-out detention activates the reciprocal one-in process for migrants in France to apply for entry into the UK, subject to visa and security checks. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper said the government is determined to end channel crossings.
No one should be in any doubt. Anyone who arrives from now on is eligible for immediate detention and return, and this pilot will now build because we are determined that no one should be making this journey, and this is a vile trade in people.
And one person has died, at least a dozen others have been injured, while 3 people remain missing after a massive fire in southern France. The blaze in the region near the Spanish border has burned an area bigger than Paris. From bureaus worldwide, this is FS.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live, talk radio you control. If you'd like to get on the air, just call 603-283-6160. I'd like... Oh,
go ahead.
I'd like to thank an amplifier named David.
That's probably better.
David went to amps.freetalklive.com and signed up to support the show. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. Thanks again to David and everyone who supports us. Again, that's amps.freetalklive.com if you'd like to check out the perks and benefits of becoming an amplifier. In the studio tonight, it's Stu.
And Richie Rich.
We're discussing
401ks.
Yep.
This is not financial advice.
Yep. Trump's bill to expand access to alternative assets in 401ks.
Which, again, not a bad thing as far as like the freedom for people to do things, right? This is lifting a government restriction on things.
Yeah, it's a solution to a problem they created,
right.
Certainly, though.
Yeah, and all the way around. And it's fundamentally, I think it fundamentally deviates from what people expect out of their 401ks and the retirement accounts in general, right? It's not supposed to be risky. It's supposed to be there when you're no longer able to generate an income of your own.
Yep. Pretty soon, maybe they'll start adding lottery tickets to your retirement plan.
Again, should absolutely be allowed. If that's the strategy you want to take, right, should absolutely be allowed. I wouldn't advocate for it.
Maybe it'll be like mainstream investment advice, though. That you're just as likely to do well that way than investing in anything else.
One good reason to be a math major,
yeah,
right? Because there's a whole bunch of stories out there of like lottery loopholes. Are you familiar with this?
No.
Okay, so the lottery loophole is certain lotteries have restrictions on them that when they get to like a certain amount, the payoff gets spread evenly amongst like all winners of a certain degree.
Yeah.
Right. And the mathematicians go like, well, if I buy like 1,000 tickets, right, then I'll get this much of the payoff statistically.
Yeah.
And so they buy the 1,000 tickets. The payoff is more than the 1,000 tickets that they bought. And they just do that every time the lottery gets like a certain number. They go, it's hit the threshold where if I invest this much in lottery tickets, my expected return is going to be this based on the payoff.
Interesting.
And there were like gambling groups out there a long time ago that did that too. They calculated the number for the lottery and go like, well, if we put in $250,000 on this $5 million lottery ticket, the likelihood is we're going to get one of those numbers because there's only a fixed amount of numbers available, and they make money in the long run with these lottery loopholes.
I love it when people do things like that with math.
Yes.
One of my favorite early endeavors was finding out exactly how card counting worked.
Okay.
Because it was like, a popular theme in Hollywood movies at the time was like, poker players and card counting and whatever. So I wanted to see how it worked, and I read a couple of books, and it kind of blew my mind about the process of counting cards, specifically for the game of blackjack.
Yep.
So for like they have a thing they call basic strategy, which is playing the game perfectly, and you have to be able to do that first, and then you add on counting cards to get your odds up to better than 90% sometimes.
Yep. And I will also suggest that if you're going to gamble, blackjack is like the one game that doesn't favor the house in the long run.
It does, but only by 1%. It's your best odds.
Best odds, yeah.
Yep. All right, back to this article. Expanding access to investments long out of reach will help ensure millions of Americans build stronger, more diversified portfolios designed to increase savings and address the practical considerations of DC plan fiduciaries. Jamie Magyar, head of retirement for leading asset manager BlackRock, said in a statement, referring to defined contribution plans like 401ks. The move could be a boon for big alternative asset managers such as Blackstone, KKR, and Apollo Global Management by opening the $12 trillion market for all defined contribution plans, of which 401ks are the most popular, to their investments. Some of those firms have already struck partnerships with asset managers who run those plans. A Blackstone spokesman said the firm welcomed the decision.
Of course.
BlackRock, which lobbied the Trump administration to expand asset options, plans to launch its own retirement fund that includes private equity and private credit assets next year.
BlackRock, that's the company that, I forget what it was, but they were accused of like buying up all the real estate.
Yes.
Okay.
One of 3 companies, yes.
Okay.
And not only that, I think they bought up a whole bunch of Bitcoin, which would make sense that they want to now get Bitcoin into people's 401ks, because then that's going to boost their own money bags. Proponents have argued that younger savers can benefit from potentially higher returns on riskier investments in funds to get more get more conservative as they approach retirement.
Keyword being potentially. Potentially. Yeah, you could become a millionaire, or you could lose everything and be working into your 80s trying to recoup some semblance of retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Or kill yourself, right? From the stress.
From the stress. Lots of people have. That's such a sad thought, that the stress of dollars in a bank account would drive you to that. On the
it's a big deal for a lot of people, man.
I know. It's really a lot. You could describe money as being the god of many people.
You're like 2 years away from retirement, and you think you got enough saved up. You check your account, and your asset broker has lost it all. Like, oh man, now I got to work for another 40 years, but you're already 60. Come on.
Yeah. On the asset manager side, it's a $12 trillion retirement market that they have previously not had access to. For them, that's certainly a lot of opportunity, said Morningstar analyst Jason Kephart. From the individual investor standpoint, though, that's where it's less clear. After all the additional fees, the additional complexity, and less transparency, Kephart added. The new investment options carry lower disclosure requirements and are generally less easy to sell quickly for cash than the publicly traded stocks and bonds that most retirement funds rely on. Investing in them also tends to carry higher fees.
Okay.
It can. We may continue with this story, but right now we've got a caller on the line, so we're going to go to the phones. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Oh, it's Sarah from Albuquerque.
Oh, hi, Sarah.
Where they're going to test all those missile launches at Teslas.
Yeah, you hear that? In your home state, they out at White Sands, they're going to shoot some Tesla trucks.
Wait a minute. Is that for real, or is somebody making a joke about it?
No,
it was a reputable news article.
Yeah, the U.S. I found several articles that said the same thing. The U.S. military wants to shoot a couple of Cybertrucks.
I don't know about all that, what's going on, but I'm more excited about. I'm more excited about the Central redesigning the street.
Go
They're
on.
Gonna take out one lane and then put like a buffer, like a bicycle lane outside the sidewalk.
Which street is this?
Central, Route 66.
Okay.
So it was like
I thought Route 66 was a myth.
No, Route 66 is like I don't know. It was like a highway, and now it's also a road.
Okay.
So it was the only major street that would start from, was it Chicago to California? So it was actually a highway.
Okay.
And
I was
also
under the impression that it was deprecated as an actual thing. and you can still do like the historic Route 66 route, but there's no longer a real Route 66.
I think I was under the impression of the same thing. Like they changed the signs or something.
Right.
They renamed
Okay.
it to something else.
Yeah.
So the
But
way
only
that
parts
the
of it.
streets
Okay.
wo-
Go ahead,
Well,
Sarah.
it's the same road. But it's really poorly designed. It has like a 3-feet sidewalk, and there's like 2 car lanes of street right next to it. And this is the way that they originally designed this road, and it's horrible for bicyclists and pedestrians to cross.
Okay.
So I think they're going to take out one of the lanes and give like a 6-feet buffer to the pedestrians.
But they're going to turn that into a bike path.
I suppose a bicycle could. I guess a bicycle could ride on it if
Okay.
they chose to,
I don't know.
and like a buffer. But the thing is, it took like forever and ever for them to come up with this. One thing about
Are there that
like,
many
the-
bicyclists in Albuquerque? I feel like a lot of places add bike lanes when there's not a significant amount of bike traffic to begin with, in the hopes that, if you build it, they will come, and then they don't.
Well, I think there's a lot of bicyclists that do want to ride. The only way that they could really ride is like for joyriding, but it's not functionable where they can't ride it on the artilleries where they go to work and school. They have to be on Central if they want to go shopping, if they have to go somewhere, if they don't have to be there. But if you're on a weekend, like a joyriding, there's bicycle path that's safe for you.
Okay,
it
yeah, but
doesn't
that's like
serve the
trails and
function.
stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So they have this like ineffective. Also, we have a great bicycle system, but it's great for recreation and exercise, but it doesn't take you where if you have a job or a school or you have to go shopping, it's not
Right.
functionable.
I guess my question is, do you think that there's a lot of bicyclists in Albuquerque demanding that a bike path be put in for them to make that commute to and from work and shops, etc.?
I think this is happening because there is a demand for it. You know what I mean? So they're putting these bicycle paths and buffers on our so-called artilleries. Artilleries are the major street that people have to be on, like Central, and people have to cross, and they have bicycles and pedestrians going in and out, and they're finally putting these bicycle paths and putting buffers and taking out one of the roads so it slows down the car. So, the thing is that I went to these transportation meetings the New Mexico, and they, like you're saying, where people really need a bicycle path with a bicycle, they don't want to talk about it. The artilleries, how to make our artilleries safe, where everybody is on it because they have to be on it, and they don't want to put the bicycle path. And, obviously, I think the auto industry, petroleum industry is behind it. Like, if you have to really go somewhere, you have to have a car and get to work and back because they make it so that you can't use a bicycle to do anything really functionable.
That's also your local zoning board, right?
Yeah, but who is influenced by this local zoning board? It's like the big lobbyist is coming, who's behind it? That's
possible.
Who I blame, huh?
I said, yeah, that's possible. Like, please make sure the suburbs are 30 miles away from the city center so that people have to use our product to get there.
Well, I mean, don't you think that they're speculating? I mean, you guys talk about that. Was it a high-speed bullet train that they have in Japan and Europe and California? And then who's fighting it and fighting it and fighting it? Because then you don't have to fly in an airplane using petroleum oil to go from LA to San Francisco.
Well, yeah,
they got this
I would suggest that on this show, at least, we fight it because they're using taxpayer funds to produce it, right? Like if this was more of a private rail type of industry where they went, well, we think we can make a profit with our investment in this rail from LA to San Diego. right? And they fronted all the money for it, and they built it with their investment and the money of investors, right? I'd have less of a problem with it than I do the government taking the money and then charging for ridership and then charging people who don't ride to pay for the service, right? Like, I'll still drive my car. I don't want an extra tax for the rail.
Well, besides this, who's funding it? Once we have it, it's going to take away business from the petroleum oil industry. All the people that are going to use gasoline cars and petroleum-fueled airplanes. You're picking it like the thing is, but
just because they build it doesn't mean people are going to use it, right? I just, like myself as the example, I like having a car. I don't want to exist anywhere where I don't have access to my personal vehicle to go where I want to go. I don't like public transportation.
Not true for me.
What's that?
Well, there's a rail runner from here to Santa Fe, and I never own a car, but I hate driving for 2 hours on the freeway. That scared the hell out of me.
Right.
For me, since I built it, I use it. I you know what I mean? That's what I would prefer. Right. I want to relax on the train for an hour, do computer work. They got Wi-Fi in it.
And again, that would be fine. That would be fine if it was private investment and only you paid for it. Not you personally, but only the riders of the service were funding the bill.
Yeah, I've never been more disappointed with a local government program than Salt Lake City's UTA, which is their public transit. It's horrible. It's designed for people who choose to use it and not for people who need to use it. If you're without a car and you live in the Salt Lake Valley, like maybe out in Harriman, out in the southwest corner, you're gonna have a hard time getting around, especially if you got things to do at night. And it's, it was built on plunder, stolen funds, and then if you want to use it, they want to charge you again. It's just horrible. And then, as far as them fixing up Central, I have mixed feelings about that, because on the one hand, if government's going to take your money, and they at least ought to fix the infrastructure, and it the roads are in horrible shape all across America. And they ought to be smooth as glass with the amount of tax that people are paying. But
and they would be if you had private investment firms running the roads.
We deal with potholes and public transit that's totally insufficient, and they do the bare minimum to keep us from rioting. So anytime they fix this stuff, I have mixed feelings. Like, that's good that they finally did something that we're actually going to benefit from. But on the other hand, I kind of just want to let them. Just let it all go to crap so that people finally get fed up and come up with a better way of doing things.
I just don't want them to take away a car lane, right, that can throughput, hundreds of cars, to put in a bike lane that a dozen people will use.
Well, in New Mexico, that just equates to another car lane, if you take my meaning.
Well,
okay.
they'll just drive right in the bike lane. They don't care.
Then I hope that's what they do in protest.
Yeah.
Bikers be darned.
Do you agree, Sarah, that that's likely what's going to happen? If they add a bike lane, people would just drive in it?
Well, I mean, okay, it's going to be only a 6 foot, 5 foot, 6 foot. That's one car lane split in half. That car lane was taken out to be given out 5 foot one side and 5 foot the other side. That is taking out one car lane.
Yeah. I've seen how people drive in New Mexico.
Now, they did one in Hawaii a long time ago when I was there, where the bike lane was separated from the car lane, but they also put curbs, so you couldn't ride in the bike lane if you were a car, because you'd actually have to hop a curb to get into it. So it was more construction cost doing that, but it was for the protection of the bikers. But it was one of the busiest roads in town. It was 5 lanes wide, going one direction, and there was always traffic. And so they increased the traffic on the island in this area by making a lane for bikers, and there weren't even a lot of bikers, like bicyclists.
They put the bicycle lane in the island?
This was in Hawaii.
Okay.
So it's already crowded. There's traffic everywhere to begin with.
That's why they put the rail in Salt Lake, the train, and that was a horrible idea. Cars are constantly launching themselves up onto the train pad, and
Hawaii also has a boondoggle of a rail system going up as well. Like,
Yep.
I don't even know how far that thing is coming along.
Exercising. What do you so much about people sitting on their fat ass and getting fat sitting inside their car? What's wrong with people pedaling and getting exercise and getting fresh air?
Nothing.
Isn't that a better way to be?
It creates more traffic, is what I'm suggesting.
Out there on the east side of the city, there you got the Sandia foothills. That's gorgeous land over there. Go out there for a run. Don't run in the city.
Or get a Peloton.
Yeah,
right? Just bike from your house in your own home.
Or drive your car down to the rock climbing gym. There's a really cheap one downtown that was I had a lot of fun.
They want you to exercise for recreation, but you can't exercise and go to work, go to school, go to shopping where you have to go because the arteries are only meant for cars. That is my whole point. And I have seen what you were talking about when I was in Chicago, where they have like a two-way street, and then they bicycle. You could go either way, and then and then they block it off with the cars can't go into it. Oh, they have these in Chicago. I've seen them in Minneapolis. So they have these in Hawaii where the cars can't go into it, like where it's just a paint line. What does a paint line do? Yeah, have you seen them video of the kids that ran over and killed a bicyclist that was going to work, and then they put it on the computer, and they got caught because they were bragging about it. They actually hit him and were laughing about it, and they posted it. That's how they got caught, because they were bragging about it.
I'm glad they got caught because that's horrible.
Yeah, I would still on this one. I'm advocating for buzzing bicyclists and pedestrians who are out of order and not taking their rightful turn at things.
Yeah, give them some awareness of the danger they're causing.
Yeah.
But don't hit somebody, and if you do, stop immediately and render some aid. Do the human thing.
These kids saw these other kids just hitting the bicycle, and it was like a little game, and they would just knock them off the bicycle, and then they see the other kids do it. They actually killed this guy. They hit him, and they killed him, and they were laughing about it. Yeah. And they put it in the computer, and then they're not going to be charged much.
Yeah.
He was on his way to work.
Stu and I both agree that that's kind of abhorrent, and we don't advocate that.
Yeah.
So
young men do atrocious things. There's not a lot of correction for young men in this society. There's no rite of passage. I don't know. You're going to have poorly behaved young men.
I think that's a human thing.
In Mexico.
I don't even think that's a society thing.
Yeah, that's not even an Albuquerque or an American thing. That's kind of a worldwide thing at this point.
Really?
Except for maybe San Bushman, they still have like rite of passage and well-behaved young men.
It's the increased testosterone and no place to put it.
Mm-hmm.
So
with an underdeveloped brain.
Mm-hmm. But anyways, anything's better than something. And then, but back to this Tesla. What are you talking about? So there are some the anti-Elon Musk people here in New Mexico are going to shoot them up? Or what are you talking about?
No, the U.S. Air Force is trying to buy a couple of Teslas to do missile testing on it in New Mexico.
The U.S. Air Force suspects they might encounter Tesla Cybertrucks on the battlefield. And so
even though there's been only like 10,000 sold.
And they want to practice shooting some.
In 2 years, they sold 10,000 Teslas, but somehow it's going to end up on the front lines in Ukraine, and they need to know how to blow them up ahead of time.
Yeah, we just thought of you because they want to use the White Sands testing facility out there to do it.
Oh, yeah, the White Sands.
Now she knows.
The White Sands are really... Did you know they found the lunar pictures by the White Sands? They found they shot all the fake lunar landing photos in the White Sands, and then a bunch of people found it by that place.
Is that where they faked that?
Yeah, I think so.
You think they faked it? Are you like a true believer?
No, I think they faked it.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, what do you think about it? You know they faked it. It's been 50 years. Nobody went back to the moon. You think to yourself, they went there once.
Yeah, and they just conveniently recorded over the VHS that had all the original footage.
I mean, when I watched all the conspiracy shows when I was a kid,
Yep. Thanks for the call, Sarah. Give us a call. What do you think? Moon landing, faked or real? Phone number here is 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Protection. Eleutheromania. The insatiable desire for freedom. Filibuster. Police state. It's the new 3-song heavy metal EP from Captain Kickass. Available now on your favorite music app or get it directly from CaptainKickass.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper with the Week in Review. This week, President Donald Trump celebrated his sweeping global tariffs, declaring on social media billions of dollars in tariffs are now flowing into the US. With the addition of this week's latest tariffs, it means that almost every product shipped into the United States is being hit with a 10 to 50% tax, depending on what it is and where it comes from. FSN's Kate Fisher in Washington spent the week digesting the tariff news that came out of the White House.
President Trump's confident that his tariffs on roughly 90 countries will pay off, leading to new manufacturing investment and jobs in the US. Here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
We are trying to rebalance trade in America's favor.
But economists say tariffs will drive up prices. Major companies like Walmart, Adidas, Mattel and Subaru have already said they'll pass along some, if not all, of the costs to American consumers. The Yale Budget Lab estimates that tariffs could cost the typical US household up to $2,400 this year.
President Trump appeared optimistic this week about a possible meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin, saying that everyone agrees this war must come to an end. In recent weeks, the US president has become increasingly frustrated that the war in Ukraine continues to rage on and has threatened further sanctions. FSN's Mitch McCann reports.
In recent weeks, President Trump has threatened to further isolate Russia by imposing harsh tariffs on India for buying Russian oil and has expressed mounting anger at the Russian leader. In fact, after one series of strikes aimed at Ukraine, Donald Trump angrily asked what the hell happened to him, referring to Putin. After multiple meetings with senior officials in recent months, Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, met with President Putin in Russia this week, with Trump later posting that, quote, great progress was made. He said afterwards, I updated some of our European allies. Everyone agrees this war must come to a close, and we will work towards that in the days and weeks to come.
Early on Friday, Israel's Security Cabinet voted to approve plans for a military takeover of Gaza City after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced his intention to seize the entire Gaza Strip. FSN's Blake Sifton sent this report from Tel Aviv.
In a marathon overnight session, the Israeli Security Cabinet approved plans to conquer and hold Gaza City in a move opposed by the Israeli military and family members of the Israeli hostages. The plan falls short of Prime Minister Netanyahu's stated goal of seizing all of Gaza after ceasefire talks stalled. Gaza City is believed to be home to 800,000 Palestinians, and the plan would likely involve their mass evacuation to the south amid a starvation crisis already underway in the Strip.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. This week, a US federal judge halted any new construction on Alligator Alcatraz, the immigration detention facility located inside a Florida wetland. Environmental groups have argued that the facility is a threat to endangered animals. FSN's Tony Waterman has more.
The ruling halts any construction for 14 days, barring the state from installing any new lighting, fencing, or paving over wetlands. The pause is meant to give the judge time to make a more formal decision. Environmental groups say Florida officials bypassed federal law requiring an environmental review when they started construction earlier this summer. Florida's Republican governor, Ron DeSantis, said the ruling will have no impact on immigration enforcement in the state. Meanwhile, Trump officials have asked the Supreme Court to lift a ban on racial profiling when arresting migrants.
The Trump administration this week offered up to $50 million for the arrest of Venezuela's president, accusing him of violating U.S. narcotics laws. It meant a doubling of the bounty on Nicolas Maduro. FSN's Jagruti Dave has more from Washington.
In a video posted on social media, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi claimed the Venezuelan president is, quote, one of the largest narco-traffickers in the world, with links to gangs including Tren de Aragua and the Sinaloa cartel. The State Department said in a statement, for over a decade, Maduro has been a leader of Cartel de los Soles, which is responsible for trafficking drugs into the United States. Venezuela's foreign minister dismissed the announcement as, quote, political propaganda aimed at distracting attention from Bondi's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case. Nicolas Maduro claimed victory for a third term last July in an election whose results were rejected by several countries, including the United States.
And that was the Week in Review. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
Do you sometimes feel that healthy eating can be a lot of work with very little reward? Well, no need to worry any longer. Here are the Onion's tips for healthy eating. First, identify your weaknesses and then condition yourself to avoid problem foods by associating them with deceased relatives, unrequited loves, and traumatic events. Remember, alcohol is a source of empty calories, so be sure to keep your drinking under control. Unless you're really stressed out, like if something happens at work or if your cat gets hit by a car. If you find yourself suddenly craving a fatty food, let yourself enjoy the best of both worlds. Tape a slice of ham to your tongue and slowly absorb the taste throughout the day without swallowing. Stay motivated by paying yourself $1 every day until you meet your weight loss goals. At the end of 10 years' time, spend that cash on a cosmetic operation of your choice. There, now you're ready to begin your new healthy lifestyle.
This is the Onion News Network.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. It's talk radio you control. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. You can call that number, get on the air with us, bring up whatever's on your mind, such as this caller has done. As we go to the phones, on-screen caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Yeah, you brought up the subject of the space program, and I'm here to tell you.
Told you, can of worms.
if you don't agree with the space program, you're ignorant.
Which one? Secret space program or above board space program?
Apollo, Gemini.
Mm-hmm.
So you believe that Americans landed on the moon in the 60s?
And that I have a tendency to purposely ignore the truth on this?
Absolutely, they landed on the moon.
Okay.
What is your evidence to back this claim?
Well, there's a lot more evidence out there to back my claim than all the other opinions about not going to the moon.
What's one piece of evidentiary claim that you know with personal knowledge to support this claim?
Well, I'd have to look it up.
Okay, how would you refute? How would you refute then the interview that the 3 astronauts gave right after they came home, and they looked like a group of sullen teenagers that were very upset that they couldn't talk about what just happened?
So you're basing that on what they looked like?
Yes, their body language, their actual language.
Well, that makes no fucking
Seems like
sense. I'm sorry.
Whoa. Sorry, man.
That was the F-bomb got dropped.
If you can watch your language, I'll give you a second try on that one.
Here, I apologize.
All right.
That made no gosh darn sense.
So you're telling me it makes no sense to pay attention to a person's body language and as well as what they actually say?
That doesn't tell you anything about the story.
Okay.
So what's the story?
The story is written down in documents.
There are lots of stories that are written down that are factually inaccurate.
There are so many facts out there about the ascent of the moon than any opinion out there.
Right, and I've hinted at this, but I've asked you directly to list like one thing, and you said you'd have to go do your research. So
yeah, I would.
Okay, so there's all these facts out there to support your claim, but you don't know any of them.
Well, it would take me a while to look it up, but I promise you I will call you back with the facts.
Okay.
Please only do so when Stu is on the air.
Maybe you want to also look into the fact that Buzz Aldrin, upon getting back home to Earth, allegedly, immediately reported to the Grand Master of his Masonic Lodge. You might think he'd go for a military debriefing.
He's also the one that punches
nope.
people that disputes his claim in public.
Yeah, lots of weird stuff about Buzz Aldrin.
You're going on your opinion and not the facts. I will bring you facts.
Okay, I'll add them to the list of facts that I've gathered on the subject, and if it brings up a contradiction, then I'll have something to weed out, and we'll go from there. Thanks for the call. I still stand on the side of they faked this one. A lot of people have something part of their identity tied to beliefs in, NASA, moon landing, state in general. It's very much a religion, and if you just look at what NASA says, half or more of the photos and documents they've released, they've had to apologize for having faked. I mean, NASA is absolutely non-credible. You basically can't believe anything they say.
Was the video directed by Stanley Kubrick?
That's the story I hear. I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't seen a lot to substantiate that, but it's possible.
All right. Filmed on a sound studio now in the New Mexico desert.
It is definitely one of the things that is claimed.
I'm entertained by conspiracy theories. I guess the more recent ones with the government being involved, I'm more likely to believe the conspiracy theory. I also don't have any facts, but my general belief is the moon landing was real.
Okay.
But I've seen a lot of the evidence that you've seen.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of the documentaries on how they faked it.
Yep.
I think that I was younger and more impressionable when I watched those, and more likely to have believed it at the time.
A lot of those videos are very sensational and carry with them information that is not substantiatable.
Yes. I also don't care enough to like continue the research on my own.
Right. And so I've looked into the apologetics as well. They're woefully insufficient. There's a lot to answer to there. One of my biggest things is they lost the footage or accidentally recorded over it.
Okay.
You don't do that with the first moon landing. You just don't. That doesn't happen.
Yes and no. So there's the technology of the time was not the technology of today.
I remember popping in the VHS tape and recording
I get it.
movies off the television.
I get it.
Pause when the commercial comes.
You're not wrong, but there are movies.
You tell me NASA techs can't do any better than that?
What I'm saying is there are movies lost to time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like there's no getting it back. We have the original script, but the cost of backup was so astronomical at the time that they had like the one reel on film and the warehouse burned down and like that's it. Like decades of movie history.
Arguably the most important footage in the history of humankind.
Maybe. If they plan to go back.
It's just
they haven't, but if there's plan to go back, like, oh yeah, we'll get more footage tomorrow.
Sorry, it was too costly to have a backup for this. Like,
again,
come on now.
Well, how would they do the backup? It'd be like on the film of the day, which degrades over time.
Yeah.
Right? Like the different technology. There's
Yeah, it seems
a lot of things.
Seems like you replicate it several thousand times and make sure that, you have copies stashed in secure locations.
Yeah, but at what cost? Right? I mean, it's taxpayer funded, sure, but you don't get a shot at that. There's a famous, moderately famous librarian popped up on my feed again recently, and she did not want them to rewrite history. So she's got like 70,000 hours worth of footage from the TV shows of like the 70s and 80s because she recorded them all like constantly, continuously on multiple VCRs. And her copy is the only archival footage of many of this because as recently as the 70s and 80s, right, there was no need for a backup. They didn't create a backup. It's the producers of the thing don't have anything, and this lady's VHS is like the thing. And now, with I think the Internet Archive is doing it, or Google, one of those big companies, they're digitizing it so that it can be preserved well beyond the lifespan of VHS. Mm-hmm. But without her, it would just be gone. Now, I get it, the claim that, the moon landing footage is, arguably the most important footage in history, right? But things like that happen when you don't think to make a backup because it's not within your purview of the time.
Yeah, that just seems like an insufficient apologetic to the problem that is we lost the footage.
Right, but that happens.
And that, I mean, it's...
And it happens more with old stuff.
It's not
that's
incredible.
Not
it's just lacking.
Yes.
It fails to satisfy me very well. And then the other thing is I forgot the name of the scientist that gave an interview, and when he was asked why astronauts haven't gone back to the moon, he said something about the Van Allen,
the radiation belt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what the Russians said. You could never cross the Van Allen radiation belt. It's too harmful to humans.
Yep. And so there's that they point to, and then they're like, they go back and look at the astronaut suits that were made out of like tinfoil and pretty cheesy materials that would likely not actually hold up to what that journey was purported to be. I think the landing craft, both the landing craft and the shuttle, were insufficient for what the journey would have been.
Okay.
These are some of the things that I've found answers to that don't fully satisfy me.
Okay. Fair enough.
That makes sense. And so,
like I said, I've seen it, and I'm not swayed by the conspiracy.
Yeah, and I don't claim to know either way. It's possible they landed on the moon when they said they did.
Yeah.
it's tough to say. There are some contradictions there that need clearing up for me to be real sure about it. So I place
hopefully with private space flight,
I place a percentage on it. It's like 56% right now for me that
it didn't happen.
That they didn't.
Close to 50-50.
They had plenty of incentive, is another thing, to fake such a thing.
That I will grant, because it was an arms race with an adversarial country.
Right.
Right. Like you had to win that, and the Russians took an early lead.
Yep. So those are some of the things that stick out in my mind when thinking about.
But also the Russians claiming like, oh, it's the Van Allen radiation belt, right? Seems like an excuse for why they weren't able to succeed. Right. Yeah. They lost them. Like, no, we could have. We thought it was too risky, and we didn't want to put the risk of our Russian cosmonauts in harm's way, as if that would have been a thing at the time. No, they would have went.
Oh, I'm sure. Cosmonauts are not known to say no to dangerous things. So
if that's true, then like they would have risked the Van Allen radiation belt, right, and or come back diseased or however what effects they would they would have learned the effects on it, but the likelihood is they just used that as an excuse for their failure.
Mm-hmm. So I thought I heard several years ago that China was sending astronauts to the moon.
Okay.
Did that not happen, I guess?
I don't know.
Internet's still telling me that 1972 was the last time any human walked on the moon.
Okay.
So seems like definitely they should have gone back since then.
Yeah, they should have, but for what purpose and at what cost? Right? Like what new information are they going to gather from the second trip that they didn't gather from the first trip, other than to prove it?
Yep, and that's the answer I get on why haven't humans been back, is just it's too costly and there's no reason to.
Yeah, sure.
Which that's a satisfactory answer.
I mean, I don't have a better one, but if they went up there, it was rocks. They brought back rock samples. When they run out of rock samples, maybe they go back and get some more. But has the surface of the moon changed significantly in the last 50 years? We're like, no, man, we got to go get some more. We saw some water. We got to go take a sample. We've got evidence of life. We got to go check it out. Right? They went. They got the rock. They planted the flag, allegedly. Right? And they came back.
Allegedly.
I'll grant it. Allegedly, I wasn't there. Wasn't even born yet. But having seen the conspiracy theorists, I still tend to lean towards, probably went.
Okay. The China mission to the moon was unmanned. They did land a craft on the dark side of the moon.
So how do you even prove that? You can't even see that with the telescope because it's on the dark side of the moon.
Yeah, this is what they're telling me.
No, I'm sure that's what the information says, right? But like that's even more precarious.
Do you know about that time they shot a missile at the moon?
No.
They shot a missile at the moon, and it made the moon ring like a bell for hours.
Okay.
So that's weird too.
I'm less likely to believe that's true. Like what does ring like a bell for hours mean? Like it was sending off vibrations like a tuning fork?
The way I understand it, yes.
Like it had a metal core? Okay.
Yeah.
How big of a someone do the math. I was told there'd be no math. Someone do the math on like how big of an impact it would have to be for a rocket, for a small rocket, a human-sized rocket to hit the moon and cause that sort of activity. It's like my body wouldn't ring like a bell for hours if I was hit with a airsoft dart.
Yep. Let's see. A rocket booster did impact the moon's far side on March 4th, 2022. This is China's. The thing I'm talking about was before that.
Okay. I'm skeptical of the far side, right? Because you can't see that from here. Why would you land on the far side?
That's a very strange thing,
right? Why would you do all your research where it's out of sight from anyone who could verify the information? That seems more skeptical than the Americans landing.
Mm-hmm.
Get a powerful enough telescope, like just find the spot where they planted the flag and see what's there. See what else you find. Let's get some pictures of it.
So, the moon ringing like a bell is a figurative description of the way the moon vibrated after being struck by a falling object.
Okay.
Okay. Moon rang like a bell for nearly an hour.
Did that ringing, did that vibration cause any disruptions to the tides of the Earth? Right?
I'm not sure.
They should have evidence, right? The placement of the moon and the movement of the moon is allegedly what impacts the tides. So if it was vibrating, you should see some ripples. If it's on the same frequency.
Yeah. Okay. So on November 20th, 1969, Apollo 12 deliberately crashed the ascent stage of its lunar module into the moon's surface. NASA reported that the moon rang like a bell for almost an hour, leading to arguments that it must be hollow like a bell. This is the story. As far as I can tell, this is actually NASA information.
All right.
So, I mean, that's a strange thing. And then there are several other strange things about the moon.
Now you have a reason to go back.
There are purported ancient stories about a time before the moon, if you want to get into that.
All right.
As if it were dragged there by someone or something, which,
all right.
I mean, that might add up. It might explain why it's the exact circumference and placement to eclipse the sun, exact same size when it goes in front of it,
Yeah.
And why you never see the other side of the thing. And it's kind of a strange object.
Yes.
Not a lot of moons act that way. In fact, maybe no other moon acts the way ours does.
It's a very compelling coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
But dragged by what? Right? Where is that object? If you're going, again, much like the caller, right? If you're going to claim that the moon is dragged into place by another interstellar object, right? You ought to have some evidence of that happening.
Well, this would have been a very long time ago.
I get it.
Before VHS tapes were available for recording over.
Otherwise, it's as good as any other fable, any other nursery rhyme.
Agreed.
Right? Any other religious figure coming and saying that humans were evacuated from a volcano, right? Like, or whatever.
All you can do is gather the claims and remove the ones that contradict, and just go with what you can substantiate.
Use your big brain and some, cognitive thinking ability to figure out what sounds plausible and what sounds highly unlikely.
Yeah.
And an interstellar being dragging the moon into place and positioning perfectly, way down my list, unlikely.
Sometimes the highly unlikely, though, turns out to be the thing that it ends up being.
And I would expect to see some evidence of that.
Obviously.
Yep.
It absolutely is. What do the caller refer to it as? Ignorance? That's in my opinion, that's when you purposely ignore available information.
Oh, and, see, I would say that's stupid. Ignorance is the lack of information. Stupid.
No, see, the lack of, if you don't know because the information was unavailable to you, that word is nescient.
Okay.
So if you're nescient, it's just because you never had that information. You never came across it.
All right.
You wouldn't be expected to know.
Right. But if you're purposely
ignorant, you're ignoring
the
truth about the situation.
All right.
So, I like to look at all of it and then not form a hard opinion one way or the other. Just look at what's most likely. And to me, most likely they faked the moon landing.
Okay.
It's not an overwhelmingly most likely, but it is most likely in my opinion.
And if you have actual evidence, unlike the other caller, bring it up to Stu.
Indeed.
I'll play devil's advocate, but I have no dog in this fight.
Yeah, this conversation's more fun for me than the flat earth thing, because the flat earth thing is
provable.
It is and it isn't. It's not provable by me.
Well, that's a lack on your part, right? Because flat earthers, other flat earthers have done the tests, they've done the math, and they went, I guess we're wrong. The math checks out.
Yeah, some of them doubled down and said, revise their model or whatever they did,
which is also a possibility. But if you're a flat earther, the testing mechanism is available to you. You don't need a spaceship to go out and land on the moon to verify it. You can just run your test based on the models and see how it comes out. Right. You can go to Antarctica and see if there's a wall.
I don't know.
There's people on Antarctica.
I don't know that would be a sufficient test. Because part of it do have, like, you know, the ice is kind of a sheer wall on parts of the Antarctica coast. And so it might appear to be an ice wall. It's not, like,
but you can go past it.
The name of the operation where Admiral Richard Byrd took a bunch of U.S. ships down there was called Operation High Jump.
Okay.
Because they were approaching a big ice wall.
And you're saying that modern technology doesn't have an aircraft that can get you up and over this ice wall,
no,
so that
you can.
Well, there you go.
Well, so his children dug up his diary also and claimed that he flew a plane into Hollow Earth through an entrance in Antarctica. So there's that to contend with as well.
Do you really have to contend with it? Like, I just reject that outright.
It's easier to reject outright since his children came out with it instead of him being, you know, admitting it
Enough
himself.
for me.
And they claim that it was his personal diary that divulged all this information, but
the flat earthers that have gone to Antarctica were like, yep, this 24-hour sun couldn't happen on a flat earth. I reject it.
There are apparently highly restricted areas of Antarctica that you are absolutely not allowed to approach.
All right.
Not that those areas control the key to flat earth or not, but something weird about Antarctica. If you know anything about that, give us a call, 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
You gotta eat, and you don't have to go broke. I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. A report by Supermarket News says you will pay less using self-checkout than at staffed registers, where all that stuff tempts impulse buying. On Facebook, Sarah R. says, I've discovered that around 10 a.m. on Wednesdays, my local grocery store marks down food that's close to expiring. She says I stock up for the week on whatever meats, bread, and veggies they have on clearance, and it is so helpful. And on BuzzFeed, Bonnie says that cutting down on pop and sugary drinks has made my mood better. And when Megan says she couldn't deal with meat prices, she started eating more plant-based food, and she calls it a positive life change. How are you coping? Post your inflation hacks at andyoucanquoteme.com.
From Feature Story News in Brussels, I'm William Denslow. The Kremlin's confirmed preparations for a Trump-Putin meeting are underway. The idea came up after discussions between President Putin and the US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff in Moscow on Wednesday. US President Trump said there was a good chance of face-to-face talk soon with the leaders of Russia and Ukraine. Daria Bondarchuk reports from Moscow.
Russian presidential aide Ushakov confirmed on Thursday that Russia and the US have agreed on a meeting between President Putin and President Trump in the coming days. The venue has been chosen but will be announced later. The Kremlin aide said the suggested timeline, next week, was designated as the benchmark, but it is difficult to say how many days the preparations will take. The sides are already working on setting up the top-level summit, he confirmed. Separately, Ushakov underlined that Moscow left without comment Stephen Witkoff's idea of a consequent trilateral meeting between Presidents Trump, Putin and Zelensky. Daria Bondarchuk, Moscow.
Israel's Security Cabinet is set to meet later to discuss and possibly approve plans for the full takeover of Gaza by the Israeli military. Blake Sifton reports from Tel Aviv.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is expected to push his security cabinet to approve a plan for the full seizure and occupation of Gaza by the Israeli military when they meet on Thursday. The plan would reportedly proceed in stages over 5 months and would displace approximately 1 million Palestinians from Gaza City and camps in the central region amid widespread starvation in the Strip. The chief of staff of the Israeli military, Eyal Zamir, is said to oppose the plan, and military officials reportedly fear that it could risk the lives of Israeli hostages and could lead to heavy casualties among Israeli soldiers.
The first migrants have been detained in the UK under the new one-in, one-out deal agreed with France, which came into effect this week. The The British Home Office say the migrants, who arrived by small boat to the country on Wednesday, have been placed in a removal centre and are set to be returned to France. As part of the deal, the one-out detention activates the reciprocal one-in process for migrants in France to apply for entry into the UK, subject to visa and security checks. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper said the government is determined to end channel crossings.
No one should be in any doubt. Anyone who arrives from now on is eligible for immediate detention and return, and this pilot will now build because we are determined that no one should be making this journey, and this is a vile trade in people.
And one person has died, at least a dozen others have been injured, while 3 people remain missing after a massive fire in southern France. The blaze in the region near the Spanish border has burned an area bigger than Paris. From bureaus worldwide, this is FS.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Talk radio you control. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. If you want to get your thoughts on the air, you can call that number, as this caller has done. First, in the studio tonight, it's Stu.
And Rich.
So this is a call-in show. And since we have a caller on the line, we're going to go right there. On-screen caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
How's it going tonight?
Not bad.
It's going.
This is Creighton.
Hi,
Creighton from Kentucky, by the way. And I called in because I don't often listen live. Sometimes I usually download the podcast after the fact and listen to it. But I was in a position where I could listen live tonight. And I discovered I usually listen by streaming, internet streaming. And I discovered that they weren't working. So I went to YouTube and discovered it was, which is kind of surprising to me. And as I was watching, the topic of whether or not the Apollo moon landings were real or not came up.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I don't know how all this was discussed before. So if I'm repeating what somebody else already said,
the only other caller didn't have any facts to back up his claim that it happened.
Well, the thing of it is, I'm undecided. And the main reason I'm undecided is because I actually know, and I've studied, how difficult it would have been for the men of the Apollo program to have survived traveling through the Van Allen belts with as much time as it took them.
Yes, we talked about that briefly.
Statistically speaking, they should have all had radiation poisoning by the time they made it home.
How do we know?
Because of the time exposure by the NASA's own admission of how long the project went through actually the thickest part of the Van Allen belts. They didn't even actually try to avoid the Van Allen belts. Statistically speaking, they would have gotten a significant radiation dose from the Van Allen belts themselves, and not an okay kind. We're not talking to like alpha radiation. That's not good, but you can shrug it off. This is mostly beta radiation, which is not something you can shrug off. It's the primary cause of radiation sickness and death in the event of a nuclear war.
And so help me out here, right? I don't know anything about the Van Allen radiation belt, but isn't it possible and maybe even probable that knowing this information, the engineers of the spacecraft would have put sufficient barriers and blockers and repellents in place so that those astronauts could safely travel through the radiation belt. They knew about it.
That's the thing. It's possible because they did know about it.
Right.
They were concerned about it. However, based on the official version of the design of the Apollo spacecraft, the answer is no. Because unless they have something secret that they were not willing to disclose, what was the Apollo spacecraft was basically an aluminum balloon.
Okay.
And it was too thin to be used as shielding. And
I mean, you say
know,
secrets that they don't want anybody to know. Again, this was a space race with an adversarial country, right? There's a presumption that there's going to be a lot of secrets from each crew so that the other side doesn't get the information and build upon it and win the race.
Yes.
Okay.
But here's and that's why I said I'm undecided.
Fair.
But here's the thing. This was, 50 years ago now?
Yes.
So we've won, okay? There's no doubt that we won the space race. What if there was some secret shielding method that was undisclosed? By now they should be yelling at the rooftops, "Hey, this is what we really did."
Really?
But they're not.
The U.S. government keeps all that stuff secret anyway. Like all the U.S. government programs that require secrecy, you get little bits of information from all of them, and it's heavily redacted. So what makes you think that this would be any different than any other government secret, that they're just not going to allow the public to see it?
That statement is not true. All government secrets have timelines. All of them. I used to be in the government. I used to have to deal with secret level stuff. And I know that every secret has its own timeline.
Okay.
Unless it gets shredded.
So what is the timeline on all this NASA information that they should have already released?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I'm saying there should have been a point at which the scientists were like, "Yeah, we did do it, and this is how."
I understand what you're saying, but even as recently as COVID, right? The pharmaceutical companies were protected for 70 years before they have to release the data to the public, as far as the timeline is concerned, right? And we're not even that 70 years for the moon landing.
But this is separate BS. You're talking about civilian scientists working for the government, and somebody should have got a Nobel Peace Prize, the Nobel Prize, for discovering a shielding method that effective, because it almost has to be active.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's a big should that they should have, but if they were compensated not to, or NASA retained the patent, or however, whatever legal maneuvering that the government can do to prevent that information from getting out, right?
I mean, maybe.
You're indebted to your country, good scientists. You can never take credit for this, but your family will, your family will live with wealth for generations.
That might have been the deal. You might be right. But,
I'm just spitballing here. Right? Like, I don't know, but that's plausible. That's not unreasonable.
There's also a small town, and I wish I looked it up before I got online. I got on the phone. There's a small town in Russia that has a statue of a member, a son from the town, who was supposed to have been a cosmonaut that went to the moon and was abandoned on the premise that they didn't tell him he was going to be abandoned. Okay. He had a certain number of jobs to do, and then they abandoned him when he got them done.
Yeah.
On the premise that nobody survives the Van Allen belt.
Sure, that's again plausible if they don't think, but if he knows it's a one-way trip, perfectly fine, right? If someone offered me a one-way trip to Mars, I would take it in a heartbeat, because I really want to know, and to be the first one there to know, even if I can't share that information with anyone, would just satisfy my personal curiosity and worth the death.
Fair.
And I like
sure
Elon.
there's plenty
I
of
like
people that
Elon
do
Musk's
that.
quote, right? Even though I'm not a big fan of Elon, and I don't know, if the quote's accurate, but he's like, "I want to die on Mars, preferably not on impact." I'm there for it. If you got to cross the Van Allen radiation belt to get to Mars, right? Then we're going to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. You got any more thoughts on that?
No, that's the only reason I called.
Yeah, thanks for the call. Interesting points. We got another caller on the line. On-screen caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Hi, this is Paul, and I can't believe we're still talking about the moon landing. It's like the flat Earth thing.
We can talk about 9/11
one thing
or
that
something else.
people never. Yes.
No, go ahead.
No, he was joking. It's Conspiracy Talk Live.
Right. One thing that people never seem to bring up is, aside from the fact that, yes, it would have been more difficult with the technology at the time to pull off a fake moon landing. The fact is, the Soviets were also trying to get to the moon. We have evidence to suggest they had a program as well, which failed. Okay. Now, what do you think the Soviets would have done had we been faking the moon shot?
Exposed it.
Yeah, of course they would have. They would have said, look, we have our radio dishes aimed right at the moon, and there's absolutely no signals coming from anywhere on the moon. And so the fact that you've got people jumping around on the screen is total BS.
Checkmate, Stu.
The fact that that didn't happen indicates a very, very strong piece of evidence that, yeah, we actually were there. Not to mention the fact that we put up reflectors on the moon. You can take a laser, bounce it off a mirror, which has a much, much higher reflectivity than the moon's surface, which is only 18% albedo. And plus the fact that now we have satellites that have gone over and taken pictures, and you can see the lunar module legs and the flags and all the stuff that were left on the various missions.
Oh, now we got layers of conspiracy because you have to believe that those things are actually taking legitimate pictures of the moon.
Yeah, well, I think Occam's razor starts to come into play here. If you go online, there is an observatory in Australia called Parkes, Parkes. And if you go online, they have several pages of how their 90-meter dish was the major source of the signal that the world watched that night. And there's even a movie called The Dish, which kind of dramatizes that. So the number of people that would have to keep their mouth closed, the fact is, we wouldn't have the kind of satellite infrastructure we have now if we weren't capable of doing what they did in 1969.
I'm curious about the laser reflections because that seems like something that a skeptic could do, right? Yeah. So, like, how does that work? How powerful enough a laser do you need? Is it readily accessible by members of the general public, or does it need to be like some special type of laser?
Well, if you call Arizona State University or any other university that has, some connection to the space program, and there's plenty of them.
Okay.
You just inquire where this mirror is on the moon, and there's maps that'll show you it's right here. Okay. And that's something you can do for less than people can put together enough money to have a laser strong enough to detect. Or you can probably just go to a university that's got all this stuff all set up.
Okay.
And you can look through the telescope and say, okay, you can look at all their setup and go, here's our laser. We're going to aim it at the moon, and here's what signal we're getting back, and here's how we're detecting it, blah, blah, blah. So, you can see it live.
So with a little bit of work, much like the flat earthers that travel to Antarctica to see the 24-hour sun, right? This is something that, with a little bit of work, could easily be verified by a skeptic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'll look into those. As far as the first claim about the USSR not throwing a fit that it was faked, They didn't claim that they were in a space race. They claimed America was in a race with themselves and that they were non-participatory.
Well, of course, until they beat us, they weren't going to claim that they were in any kind of race, because otherwise, if they'd have claimed they were in a race and they lost, they weren't going to put themselves in that position. So They would keep their mouth closed. I mean, obviously, they weren't in a race to put up the first satellite, but when Sputnik went up, they went, hey,
Yeah, it also wouldn't be a very smart move if they suspected the Americans of faking the moon landing for them to go publicizing that without, hard evidence. So I just don't see why they would blow the whistle on that one.
No, you blow the whistle and you make the Americans provide the evidence. What are they hiding? Why won't they show the people?
Yeah. Well, while the moon landing was there was a signal coming from Tranquility Base, and somebody with a strong enough directional antenna, and there were plenty of them around the world. In fact, the broadcast was shared among several different receiving sites, Goldstone in California, and there was a couple of other sites in Australia, including the one at Parkes. So yeah, any radio astronomy site, and there were plenty of them around the world back then, would have been able to check and see, there's a signal there. Yep, 500 kilohertz TV, slow scan TV, and there's radio. And I guess we're getting telemetry. Yeah, there must be somebody up there.
And none of them kept the records. All of it lost to history.
Kept the records.
Well, Stu's claim earlier was that they lost the footage. So if the footage was being if the footage was being broadcast back, someone in the 60s should have set up that VCR or whatever recording technology film tape they had at the time to make sure that this was this big monumental achievement was preserved.
Yeah, let me address that, because there was a news story. I think about 2005, there was a news story. What happened was the television pictures were analog slow scan, I think 400 lines per frame at 10 frames per second. And they contracted with RCA to make a converter box that would take that slow scan TV and turn it into something broadcastable. And RCA built these boxes, and they went to all of the sites, the Goldstone and Parkes and the other sites that were going to be receiving this and then sending the picture worldwide. And what it was is just a little CRT inside this box that would display, it was kind of like an oscilloscope screen, that would display this 10 frames per second image. And it was just rephotographed with a standard TV, camera at 60, fields per second at 525 lines. And then that was the picture sent via satellite, commercial, because in 1969 we had broadcast satellite TV. That's how it went across the world. And one of the artifacts of that was the fact that when they mounted the camera, because obviously you wanted to be able to catch the first step, right? So obviously, it would be too awkward to have Neil Armstrong holding a camera while he's trying to climb down the stairs. So they mounted the camera outside on the limb on a little door that dropped down. Okay, so the camera was mounted on this little door that would aim at the stairs. But the way they had to mount the camera was mounted upside down. All right, so RCA put a little switch on this converter box that says, when you first get the signal, you've got to throw the switch to turn the picture right side up. And if you go to the Parkes Observatory website, all this stuff is documented. They got pictures of all this stuff, including a picture of the converter box with the switch. And of course, everybody was so excited. The first image we saw, they forgot to throw the switch, and it was upside down. I remember watching this. I was in high school, and I didn't know all the background, but I remembered it being upside down.
So did it have something to do with these converter boxes that led to the accidental losing the original footage?
Deal, okay. Yeah. I'm getting to that. Okay, here the deal was, so the actual signal was a 500 kilohertz analog carrier that was coming from the limb. And that analog carrier was being demodulated and turned into this 10 frames per second picture that was shown on this little oscilloscope screen inside these converter boxes. But they were also recording via a instrumentation, half-inch instrumentation tape. It looked like computer tape, but it was analog. And they were recording this 500 kilohertz video signal directly. Okay. And anybody actually saw was the output of the black and white camera in the converter boxes, which lost a heck of a lot of contrast and resolution. That's why it looks kind of weird. Okay. And somebody decided, hey, whatever happened to those original half-inch instrumentation tapes recording the carrier directly? What could we do with that signal and convert it using a computer? We get these beautiful pictures of Armstrong and the whole moon thing, and nobody could find them. And
how convenient.
How this came. Well, I mean, we have the pictures we saw live, but the problem was they were going to shut down the last machine that could play these tapes. Okay, and somebody said, "Well, wait a minute. Well, we don't want to get rid of the last machine, you know." Then they discovered, wait a minute, where'd the tapes go? Okay, and that is unfortunately a tragic mystery. Now, some people say, well, the tapes got destroyed. The tapes got I don't think got written over or lost or whatever. You know, went into one of those boxes that was at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. You know, but. The fact that they can't find the tapes doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means we lost the best record we had, because later on there were examples of 2-inch tapes that were recorded off of some of these other unmanned moon things, where they were taking maps of the moon, and there was there was these little strips of image that were all put together as a mosaic, so you could see the entire picture. And then later they found the original 2-inch tapes that were recorded, and then they computer corrected them, and boy, they look great. You know, same images, but now all the errors have been corrected. So people were speculating, boy, wouldn't it be nice to have the moon landing footage like that? But the fact that they can't find those half-inch tapes, you know, although there are pictures of the half-inch tapes in the pictures they show on the Parkes Observatory website from Australia. You can see all this stuff. So where they went, we don't know, but it's a shame that we lost them. But that doesn't mean that they didn't exist, and it doesn't mean that nobody went to the moon. So,
well, thanks for the call, and you've given me some things to think about.
Great call, by the way.
Yeah, very, very good call. You've managed to sway my percentage.
Where are you at now? You were at 56 before the call. Where are you at now?
I think I'm around 52.
52? Okay.
And I'll look into his stuff. He might bring me under that 50% threshold.
Love it. Good job, caller.
We've got another caller. On-screen caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Well, I was, you know what a shell game is, right? I was noticing, and I think I've called on this topic in earlier calls. You remember how Trump wanted to create a crypto coin reserve, strategic Bitcoin reserve. That's what he was going to have.
Yep.
He wanted to take the gold of America and buy Bitcoin and then make a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Instead, he made Trump coin and Melania coin.
Did he run up against, oh no, America's got no gold with which to buy Bitcoin?
Yeah, weren't they supposed
was that
to
the
audit?
Well, part of that was that if they did asset forfeiture of gold, that would be gold coming into America, basically, into the Treasury. And so using that to buy Bitcoin, it was by government release, so to speak, a court order of this parcel of. But anyway, playing shell games with the value of the world is what he's up to. And it's bad enough that, he's ruined the value of the dollar. They're saying our treasury notes are like going double D, in the world, nobody wants to invest in friggin' Nazi Germany. Same here. Nobody's putting it into U.S. treasury notes. And so the value, the reputation of America itself is on the line because of this rat. he's so devalued the U.S. dollar that it's like you better have some hard nickels because everything changes.
Well, you get a chance to vote him out in 3 years.
Well, I mean, if you found out that the guy had 34 felony counts and still got elected and ran the Treasury dry in 7 months, so yeah, that's where we are right now.
Yep, I tend to not disagree hard with you. That, I mean, playing funny games with the money is kind of just the way things go, man.
He's the biggest crony of them all.
At least since Federal Reserve, and you could argue since back before that. Anyway, this has been Free Talk Live. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll be back next weekend.
Some of you have wanted to support Free Talk Live's mission on a monthly basis, but don't want to support Patreon. Now we have an alternative that also helps our premier streaming platform, Odyssey. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join at the top of the channel. You can subscribe for $5 per month, and unlike other subscription services, Odyssey adds their processing fee on top, so it'll cost a little over $5 per month, but Free Talk Live will receive the entire amount you pledged. Higher donation tiers are available if you're feeling so inspired. You'll get a special membership badge that's visible in the Odyssey chat room, and if we get enough supporters, we may enable members-only chat. This new subscription method is a great way to decentralize our direct listener support away from just Patreon and also support a libertarian-run business, Odyssey. Please visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join to subscribe to our Odyssey channel and help support spreading our message around the planet. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join today.
Free speech is protected on the internet, right? Not always. Government agencies try to limit free speech and commerce on the net. Luckily, when they do, the Institute for Justice is there to defend your First Amendment right to free speech. IJ helped set the first federal precedent for internet free speech in 1999, and ever since has worked to prevent unconstitutional roadblocks in cyberspace. Visit our website today at ij.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Coming up next after the news, Hour 1 of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, here at listen.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper with the Week in Review. This week, President Donald Trump celebrated his sweeping global tariffs, declaring on social media billions of dollars in tariffs are now flowing into the US. With the addition of this week's latest tariffs, it means that almost every product shipped into the United States is being hit with a 10 to 50% tax, depending on what it is and where it comes from. Ever since Kate Fisher in Washington spent the week digesting the tariff news that came out of the White House.
President Trump's confident that his tariffs on roughly 90 countries will pay off, leading to new manufacturing investment and jobs in the US. Here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
We are trying to rebalance trade in America's favor.
But economists say tariffs will drive up prices. Major companies like Walmart, Adidas, Mattel and Subaru have already said they'll pass along some, if not all, of the costs to American consumers. The Yale Budget Lab estimates that tariffs could cost the typical US household up to $2,400 this year.
President Trump appeared optimistic this week about a possible meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin, saying that everyone agrees this war must come to an end. In recent weeks, the US president has become increasingly frustrated that the war in Ukraine continues to rage on and has threatened further sanctions. Ever since Mitch McCann reports.
In recent weeks, President Trump has threatened to further isolate Russia by imposing harsh tariffs on India for buying Russian oil, and has expressed mounting anger at the Russian leader. In fact, after one series of strikes aimed at Ukraine, Donald Trump angrily asked what the hell happened to him, referring to Putin. After multiple meetings with senior officials in recent months, Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, met with President Putin in Russia this week, with Trump later posting that, quote, great progress was made. He said afterwards, I updated some of our European allies. Everyone agrees this war must come to a close, and we will work towards that in the days and weeks to come.
Early on Friday, Israel's Security Cabinet voted to approve plans for a military takeover of Gaza City, after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced his intention to seize the entire Gaza Strip. FSN's Blake Sifton sent this report from Tel Aviv.
In a marathon overnight session, the Israeli Security Cabinet approved plans to conquer and hold Gaza City in a move opposed by the Israeli military and family members of the Israeli hostages. The plan falls short of Prime Minister Netanyahu's stated goal of seizing all of Gaza after ceasefire talks stalled. Gaza City is believed to be home to 800,000 Palestinians, and the plan would likely involve their mass evacuation to the south amid a starvation crisis already underway in the Strip.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. This week, a U.S. federal judge halted any new construction on Alligator Alcatraz, the immigration detention facility located inside a Florida wetland. Environmental groups have argued that the facility is a threat to endangered animals. FSN's Tony Waterman has more.
The ruling halts any construction for 14 days, barring the state from installing any new lighting, fencing, or paving over wetlands. The pause is meant to give the judge time to make a more formal decision. Environmental groups say Florida officials bypassed federal law requiring an environmental review when they started construction earlier this summer. Florida's Republican governor, Ron DeSantis, said the ruling will have no impact on immigration enforcement in the state. Meanwhile, Trump officials have asked the Supreme Court to lift a ban on racial profiling when arresting migrants.
The Trump administration this week offered up to $50 million for the arrest of Venezuela's president, accusing him of violating U.S. narcotics laws. It meant a doubling of the bounty on Nicolas Maduro. FSN's Jagruti Dave has more from Washington.
In a video posted on social media, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi claimed the Venezuelan president is, quote,